Hey comrades, what's next in our journey? Our journey of video game stuff that I found. And our next journey takes us into the land of Fairy Tail. Now Fairy Tail is kind of a shitty it's kind of a shitty shonen anime. But not shitty as in bad, shitty as in like, what am I fucking watching? I'm a huge fan of Dragon Ball Z, One Piece. I'm a huge fan of the manga of Seven Deadly Sins. The anime, I liked the first season, but then I saw some shots from later seasons, and I was sorely unimpressed with the animation. So I didn't watch the rest of that shit. But the manga was good. It was straight up fire. And Fairy Tail, I've dipped in and out on occasion because it's like too much. it's like way too fucking much. But I saw that there was a game on fitgirlrepacks.com or whatever it is. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's give this a shot. So here we go. It's a role-playing game as far as I can tell thus far. Of course, since it's based on this completely ridiculous shonen anime, the game does not disappoint if you were a fan of this, because we spend like 45 minutes fighting one guy with like different variations of like the Fairy Tail Guild as like the opening story, which is good. It's not just like I'm not just watching an episode of Fairy Tail. I'm like involved, kind of, because my guys will be able to do attacks. Those attacks are very much, you are allowed to do this one attack until like the very end. Then I can like mix it up a little bit. What do you need to know about Fairy Tail before you get involved? I would say thus not really a lot, because you could literally just like turn on Fairy Tail at the beginning of any arc, and you could put two and two together real quick. Like, these are the bad guys, those are the bad guys. These guys have like very simplistic like personality traits, like Natsu or Nats. I think it's just supposed to be Nats. I hear Natsu a lot in English, but when you have that Tsu, like Desu, it's just Des. Like, you kind of, it's either the U is like very quiet or it's like non-existent. So Nats, he is like the greatest fighter of all time, and he's like a he's a fire dragon slayer, and he can like absorb other dragon powers, and he gets beat, but he always gets back up, and he never gives up, and he's always optimistic, and he always wins at the end. Then there's his love interest. If this wasn't an anime for like literal elementary school children, which is what it is, to like middle school, because it definitely has a lot of fan service. Like, the Lucy Heartfilia is one of my all-time favorite anime girls ever, because she is super banging hot, and she's like the secondary main character. Plus, she's cool. She's got a good attitude. She reminds me a lot of I lost it. God, I don't know why I'm so bad at the names. The girl, the main character girl from One Piece. She has that same kind of look. Super hot, redhead. But Lucy's like a blonde. I like her attitude a little bit more because she's super girly, but she's also a badass. And then she summons creatures, and they're always so ridiculous. So in the world of Fairy Tail, everyone has like a magic specialty. So as I said, Knots is like fire magic, essentially, dragon fire magic. Hers is she gets these keys, she summons. So she gets these keys and she can summon. And that's like, a lot of times she'll be like, oh, I want to go get that key, or like, I want this key. And she summons like members of like the Zodiac. Right? It's like Virgo, Lion, Crab, all this stuff. It's so good. And there's a whole side story with like, there's a member of Fairy Tail, because Fairy Tail is the name of the guild. There's all these magic guilds in the kingdom of like Feore, I think is what it's called. And the Lucy is definitely like the point of view character at the beginning of the anime. I don't know if it changes later on. I didn't pay that. Again, it's like, I can watch like 10, I can watch like half an arc of Fairy Tail before I get kind of like burnt out of it. Like, it's like, man, this is awesome. And then it's like, oh, they're still doing this fucking thing. Anyway, so you got the guild master. There's a lot of characters. I'm not going to go over every single one of them. The main ones are those two. Then there's Gray, who's like an ice magician, and then, oh shoot, I forgot her name, Renala or something. and she's like a knight. She does like arms. She's an arms magician, so she has like, arms and swords and stuff. Those are the 4 main characters, and then there's Blue Guy, who I always forget his name, who's like a cat guy, who's like the comedic side character. And there's like a whole cast of people. So you start off with the 4 main plus Wendy, who is like a wind magic user. She's kind of more healing and defense. And you guys are fighting Hades. Hades is the second master of Fairy Tale. The third master is the one who's currently running it. The second master ran off to be evil and to follow Zareth, who's like this. He's almost like a Lord Voldemort kind of character in the world of Fairy Tale. It's like this black mage that was like defeated by the power of all the guilds, and like then he was like banished, or he was like split up, and then like there's like evil sects that are trying to bring Zareth back. It's kind of this constant like ghost over like all the stories, and when they're dealing with like evil guilds versus just like opposing guilds or rival guilds or whatever. There's the guild versus guild battle is where most of like the shonen stuff comes from, and then there's like I said, there's like these evil groups that are not necessarily guilds. And then so Hades the first master's dead, and then Hades was like a master and he ran off to be evil, and then there's a third master, Marvika, something like that. I can't remember. He's like an old man who's kind of pervy and funny. It's like that trope. So the game starts off, we're on an island, Knots and everybody was trying to get their like S status, which S is the best. Usually it goes like F, E, D, C, B, A, and then S, and then sometimes double S or triple S as like the best. So Knots is like an A rank, and he wants to be S rank, but then the S rank thing gets interrupted because while they're trying to do the S rank testing, Hades, I guess, showed up. This is a lot of this is like off screen later on. They like explain what was going on because the game just starts with you battling Hades. And so then you battle Hades, and then you beat him, but then no, he's not really beat, of course. So then he beats you, and then Laxus shows up, and Laxus is like the lightning dragon slayer. So like remember, Knots is like the fire dragon slayer, and Laxus is like an S rank adventurer, and he's like one of the top fighters in the guild, magic users in the guild. And when you first start watching the anime, he's like a total asshole, doesn't want anything to do, but you find out he actually loves the guild. And I think he's the son or nephew of like the guild master or something, if I remember correctly. I don't know. It's been a long time since I watched this anime. Like it's like back in my like real shonen days when I was like all I was watching was like Rurouni Kenshin and Dragon Ball, and then Fairy Tail showed up, and then like Seven Deadly Sins was around, and like all that shit. Like that was what I consumed. Was just like the same thing over and over again. So then he beats Hades, and then Hades beats him, but then Alexis gives his dragon lightning magic to Natsu, which is something he can consume other people's magic and makes him even stronger. So now he's got lightning fire magic, and then he beats Hades again, but Hades isn't down for the count yet. And so everyone's like tuckered out because Natsu is like tapped out all his magic, and so he's like, and then he's like, oh, it wasn't enough to defeat me, and Hades uses his like eye of evil and turns into like evil super Hades. It's like ridiculous even talking about it. I love it. I love it so much. So then Knots uses the power of his eternal optimism to get his teammates back on their feet and being the shonen hero powers. And they're like, no, we're not going to give up. We got this. Let's go, Fairy Tail. And so then you fight him one more time and you beat him, and this time you beat him for good. But no one in Fairy Tail ever dies. They either join Fairy Tail or just like run away with their like, their tail between their legs. And so then the rest of Fairy Tail shows up at this point after you've beaten Hades for good. He's for good done. And Marvika, that guild master, is like, why'd you leave? Why'd you give yourself over to Zareth, you asshole, blah, 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 blah. And then you like leave and you're hanging out on the island and you're like, oh, it's too bad we weren't able to do S. And you like meet all the rest of the characters and you can chit chat. And then once we do that, they're like, oh, what should we do? I guess we'll just head back to the guild and we can do your S rank up challenge another time. So then we go back, and Hades is still alive, of course, just being like sad that he lost. Because it's based on a children's anime. Let's not forget. This is not like cartoon animes are all for children because they're cartoons. This is like no. This Fairy Tail is made for like middle school children. Like no joke. Like there's a lot of fan service, but that's as far giant breasts are as far as it goes. This is like so if the teenage brother is watching, or like middle school, you're starting to get real horny. It's like ooh, loose hair philia, nice. Or like Knots just says like he's just ripped. So if for some reason you're a girl who wants to watch this, you got fan service for everybody. So where was I? Oh yeah. So then you hear like a voice, and Hades is like, "Oh, Zareth!" And it's Zareth. Wait, I finally see Zareth. Zareth's here, and he's like all pissed off, and he's like, "Oh, you've summoned me, and it's time for my awakening, and like it is time for the end of the world." But he doesn't say the end of the world. He keeps saying the end. I think it's the end of an age. He's like, "It is the age is over. It is time for a new age. It is the end of the age." Some bullshit like that. And then he keeps referencing like Angelica, something. We find out that's just like a big angry dragon. So then we go back to the rest of the fairy tale crew, and they're all chilling, kind of laughing, and then you hear like this roar. Well, first of all, the guild ace, Gildred, something like that. He's like, I sense something. And then everyone else is like, I also sense something. And then they see the dragon in the sky, and it like roars at them. And Knots is like, I'm going to get that motherfucker. But then the dragon flies up, and then everyone's like, we got to run and get out of here. And so they start running, and then it's like someone else is like, hey, make all of you who can do protective magic, get it ready. And then the dragon starts charging up so it can blow up the whole island. And like Wendy or somebody is like, oh, the dragon's going to kill everybody and blow up the island. And then they all hold hands in a big circle and like hum to themselves. And then the dragon like shoots the island. And then we go to Lucy's journal. And that's one of the components of the anime is that Lucy will like write in her journal all the time. And she's like, we were saved because we used the magic that the first master created for the guild to protect us, called like, it's like a fairy angel magic or something. But when we awoke, it had been 7 years. So they used this like protective cocoon or whatever, but then they were trapped in it for like 7 years. And this is all just recalled to us through like reading her journal. And so then, we headed back to where the guild was, and we found that the guild had been like sold because of the debts, and that, all we had left was this like shack on the edge of town, and that we'd fallen completely out of rank, and that all our magic powers were gone. It's one of those. It's already shown it. Like, we lost all our powers. Time to get them back. And Knots is, of course, super optimistic about it. And so we're going to do it. So we just like chat with everybody and kind of, all right, so we're poor. We have a lot of debt. Lucy's house she got evicted out of her house because she has no money. And then Knots, like his buried treasure got like dug up over the last 7 years. And there's only like 2 other guild members that were like holding on. Everyone else like left. So we're at the very bottom. We're like 168th out of all the guilds in the Kingdom of Forore. And so we got to work our way back up, and how we got to do it is we got to get better. And so we do that by going on quests. And so we start, and we're like, all right, we got a quest board, and we're gonna start doing quests and getting better, and then the guild's gonna get better, and then we're gonna upgrade the guild, and it's gonna be awesome. And so we get our first quest, and somebody's like, oh, my brother got lost in the woods. Can you go find him, please? And then Knots is like, let's do this. And so then we have our 2 main characters, of course, Lucy and Knots. And we're about to head out when Wendy's like, hey, can I tag along? I have healing magic, so I can help just in case you guys get in trouble. And then we learn that in this game, there's the main crew that we can control, and then there's going to be like side characters that we don't control, but that will come like help us out. So that's an interesting concept. And then we just kind of go explore. There's these orange dots around places that if you click on them, it gives you like items. It's instead of being like a white star or whatever. So that's nice. And sometimes they're pretty well hidden, to be completely honest. Like they'll be under a barrel or a box. And so if you don't like looking real careful, you might just like run by them because everything's very colorful. So the color orange is going to stand out because it's like, the one color not found in nature or some bullshit, or the least found in nature. But at the same time, I ran past a barrel or a box like twice. And then my third trip, as I was just like exploring the main city, I was like, oh shit, I can search this thing. So I did. And then we head out to the forest. So off to questing we go. The first quest, again, is to find some guy in the woods. It's some brother or something. I don't know. Anyway, so we head off to the woods. A lot of this section, this chapter 1, like there's the prologue section that we talked about with like the island and all that, but now we're in like chapter 1. And a lot of this is still tutorial. Like it'll be like, oh, you got to go do this. And then you get like this page or 2 of tutorial. And the page or 2 is like, each page is like a couple sentences, if that. It's just kind of explaining the different mechanisms and whatnot. So we head off into the woods, and we get into our first combat encounter all on our own. And yeah, the guest character just goes hog wild. And with these kind of like missions, they're very short. And so first I'm like, okay, I'm going to attack and save my magic. And then I realize that after you kill an enemy, you get like magic and health back. And granted, I'm playing like story mode of this game. And at some point, I'm probably going to cheat to just max out my efficiency as fast so I can run through this thing as fast as possible. But at this point, like I'm still killing things. I kill things like pretty quick. Like easy mode is easy mode. This is it's like no joke. Like I just kill things like almost instantaneously. And I already have attacks that do like multiple areas. And the battle system's pretty interesting. So you have like a 3x3 square. So there's 9 squares where monsters can be. And then all your attacks affect like different areas. So it'll be like a single square, like a T square, like, a thing above that, and then 2 to the right, 1 to the right, and 1 to the left kind of experience. Some that make like L shapes, some that have like, there's different designs. So you can kind of see where the enemies are placed. So there's definitely a strategic component that I'm enjoying. Like everything about this game, it's like dumb fun. It's the best way to describe it. Like I'm enjoying it. And the voice acting's good. It's the original Japanese cast. I don't know if it's the original Japanese cast from the anime, but there's no English dubbing on this. So it's good stuff. So then we kill some monsters and we find the guy and kill some bad guys. And then we win. So then we can teleport directly back to the guild, which I do. And then we chit-chat some more and we get our next quest. Our next quest is to find these smugglers. And for this quest, we don't get Wendy. We get Gray. Gray joins us. And Gray's he's kind of the counterpart. He's an ice mage. So while Nuts is kind of punching, but he's also very fire-oriented, Gray is ice-oriented. So they're kind of in opposition. And I haven't seen it in this yet, but in the anime, he's always like naked. And when I say naked, he's wearing like shorts, like swim trunks. Not even like boxer shorts necessarily. Because again, this is like a kid's anime. And so that's always fun. But he hasn't done that here. And the thing is, he was like, oh, I know about these smugglers. I beat them up like 7 years ago and put them back on the correct path. Because no one gets killed, remember, unless it's like by a bad guy. The good guys just like beat people up and then like move on with their day. So he beat these guys up and made them legitimate business people. But then, so we go and track them down. You just go talk to a bunch of people in the town, and then we get the fast travel system within the town that we can use through this. And then we run into the smugglers and we beat him up. And he's like, "What's wrong with you guys? I beat you up last time so you wouldn't have to smuggle anymore. And I helped you get like your business started." And they're like, "Oh yeah, but we heard you were missing. We spent all the money trying to find you, and we're now bankrupt, and now we have to smuggle to like make money again." And he's like, "You idiots! Why'd you come find me? You gotta take care of your families, you dum-dums." And they're like, "Yeah, you're right." And he's like, "Good." And then we just walk away. And I'm like, they're still broke. Whatever. Anyway, so we return that quest in, and then we get our next quest. And for our next quest, we get Ezra. And that's who it is. The redheaded lady with the armor. I can't remember what I said before, but it's Ezra. Or Urza. I'm sorry. It's that thing where like your brain reads the first and last letters of things, and like the rest of it is just like, if it has the same letters, it'll like figure it out real quick. It'll just like assume their order based on like your heuristic system in your brain. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just look up Google like first and last letter of words with the jumble in the middle, and you'll get like a list, and you'll be able to read them like super fast because your brain just like reassembles them quickly because it looks at like the length, the different like digits, essentially the different letters, and then the first and last, and that's how our brains function. So when you're reading, when you're very familiar with the language, it doesn't matter like what's in the middle, essentially, as long as it's like it matters in that it's the same lettering, but it doesn't matter if it's jumbled, because your brain will just like interpret it correctly. It's very fascinating, but because it's just based on like memory, like rote memory, and it's a glance. Like your sensory memory is like almost instantaneous. Like everything you see is like instantly recharged. Like it's like a quarter of a second that your memory for like your sensory perceptions last before, and and sometimes they're stored into short-term memory or whatever. Anyway, long tangent short. You go off with Urza to shoot. I forgot. What are we doing? Yeah. There's like pickpockets or like kind of thieves out, bandits in the woods. Oh, mail. That's what it is. So they stole the mail. There's like the bandits in the woods, in a different woods in a different area, who stole the mail. And Urza is very concerned because she ordered like sexy panties, and she needs to get it back before anyone finds out. So you go to the woods, you beat up some more monsters. We learn a new mechanic. Sometimes in battle, there'll be like a block, like a stone or a fallen tree or something, and we have to do so much damage in a battle nearby that sector. And if we do that, we do like overboard damage, and that destroys the block so that we can get to like a secret area, like a treasure chest or whatever. And when you walk up to these barriers, like on the map, it'll show them. There'll be like a little circle with a line through it. And then when you walk up to them, it'll tell you how much over damage you need to do. And so in this area where we're introduced to the concept, we can get through all of them except one of them. I mean, maybe if I tried like really, really, really hard, because usually you got to be using your like fairy tale attack. And so what happens is, as you're fighting things, you build up like essentially a limit break for your party. And when that activates, you can go, and then you can chain a bunch of attacks together, which does a ton of damage. But there's one like I'm doing the max I did was like 15,000 damage. But there's a block that requires 30,000 damage. So I'm like, I assume I just have to come back here later and like really like kick the shit out of something nearby to get whatever access to that. So it's an interesting way of like reusing areas, kind of doing the, you got to come back here later with a different item, but with just combat built in. So it's like a simple mechanic that is easily implemented, and you can just like toss in there to like add some like peak level stuff that's more based on coming back later in the game. So that's interesting. It's good stuff. So then we beat up all the bandits. There's like 4 of them or so, and then we get the panties back. And Urza is super excited about it. And Lucy and Happy. Happy is the blue cat creature that hangs out with Natsu, are like teasing her about it. She's like, "Oh, what are these panties?" And she's like, "Ah, blah, 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 blah." Good stuff. And then again we head back to the guild. So next up, we get kind of like a sad story. We go and talk to Kana. Kana's she's like the bartender for the guild. And her whole deal is, I can't remember what kind of magic she has. Hasn't really come up. At some point the game told me, but I never saw it in action. But she is the illegitimate daughter of Gildart, who is the star, right? Like the next in line to take over the fairy tale guild and be the fifth master. And there's a whole comedic sketch about that, where it's like the old man is like the third master. We defeated Hades, who was the second master, and then since we were gone for 7 years, there's like another guy who was like the fourth master, but he was a complete train wreck because he obviously let Fairy Gale fall into disrepair, into debt, and so he's being ousted. So then Gildart is supposed to be the fifth master, but he like pieces the fuck out. And leaves a note saying, "I don't want to be a guild master. I'm going to go wander around and do that." And so then the old master, who was the third master, is now the sixth master. He's like, "Fuck it, I'll just keep doing this job." Anyway, back when we're on the island, we get a flashback. So Lucy, my dream girl, talks to Kana, and she's like, "Hey, thanks so much for all your help." And Lucy's like, "For what? Nani desu ka?" And Kana recalls with her about how Lucy really pushed Kana to tell Gildart that was her daughter. And we get a really, really, really touching moment where he's like so excited. Well, first it's like a joke, right? He's like, "Wait, are you the daughter of," and he names like 45 different women. And she's like, "You're a pervert. I hate you, Dad." And she's like, No, I knew it all along. It was always Cecilia or something. She was the only woman I was ever married to. And she divorced me 18 years ago because I was working too much. And, you remind me just of her. And she was the only true love of my life. And they like hug it out. And she's like, "Whatever, Dad." And he's like, "No, I want to be your father. I want to something. And they like, he's crying. And so I'm very sweet. And then Lucy's like hanging out. Then Lucy comes back to the present. And she's like hanging out on is she in the guild? I think she's hanging out on there's like a river that goes through town. So like she's hanging out there and it's like, "I haven't seen my dad in 7 years. And like we didn't get along and I hated him, but then I forgave him because of like some incident from the anime that I never saw, like the Apocrypha incident or whatever, when I was kidnapped. And so I forgive him, and so I'm going to go visit him." So she goes to visit her dad, and then the lady who's like where her dad should be is like, "Oh yeah, he died like 2 months ago." Wah, wah, wah. Of course she's sad about it. Poor Lucy. So she's like, "I don't know. I don't feel..." And so then we take over Natsu, and Natsu has to come track her down in the city. And he's like, "What's wrong with you?" And she's like, "I don't know. Found out my dad's dead while we were gone, and I don't know if I'm happy. I don't know if I'm really sad about it or angry. I feel kind of neutral, so maybe I really did hate my dad." And Natsu's like, "I don't think you hated your dad. I think you loved him," and something. And you're like, "All right, well, let's get out of here." So then you start walking, and you walk past her apartment, and the landlady's like, "Lucy, get in here." And so she brings her in, and there's all these presents stacked up and all these letters. And the landlady's like, "Here, this is a letter that came in today for you." And it's like a letter for her from her dad about how much he loves her and how much he misses her. And he sent her a present to her apartment like every year for like 7 years before he died. And it's all very sweet. And so she has a good cry. It's like really touching. It's like really touching stuff, man. As someone who had like a kind of similar relationship with their dad as Lucy, and whose father is also dead, made me feel some things. Anyway, but also he saved up and paid off all her rent for like the 7 years. So now she moved back into her apartment, which for us is important because now we can dress up our characters. And because the Fit Girl repack that I'm playing this with came with all the DLC, everyone gets like their Class A get-ups, which are like a little more... So there's the normal one that come from like the beginning of the anime where they're like very undressed. And then the Class A is like a uniform, or Team A or whatever, and then we get a Lucy Heartfilia costume of Altairiza, which is like the thick girl from the Altairiza series, who I think this company makes those games too, or at least made those. And I definitely want that because sexy as hell. And then we get like a maid costume for Urza. I think the rest of them just have the one costume from the DLC. Anyway. So that was super fun. We also get her Poon Poon, which is one of her like summons. And if we give him candy, so much candy that we find, we get like stuff. So I gave him like the 3 or 4 pieces of candy I had on hand, but it wasn't enough. So after that, we head back to the guild, and then our next task, or we like graduate to like episode 2 of chapter 1. Yeah, I think that's what it is. So then episode 2 at that point is the goal is to level up the guild. So we have 3 things. We can create an item shop, an alchemist shop where we can make lacrima, which again is the only thing you can equip and gives you different boosts and buffs. And we have to use it's money and items that we find around, just like lying around. And then we can upgrade our guild board so we can do better quests, which is more D class quests. I thought that's like the 2 quests that did before D class, but maybe not. Anyway, it also at this point so we have to upgrade all 3 of these things, and then we get some of like these bullshit quests. Like one of them's to like go kill a monster and get some items. The other 2 are just walk around trying to get items. And then we learn about community service. Community service is just trading items to characters in town. They're just like, oh, can you help me? I need water. It's like, all right, here's 6 pieces of water, and it's like, cool, here's a lacrima, and you're like, thank you for this transaction. That is all. And then, let's see. So we do that. We get all that stuff upgraded. We have a nice chat with some of the characters about this stuff, and so the guild's like progressing on its way. Obviously, I'm cheating, so I have like unlimited money, and then I raise all my bond stuff, also with unlimited funds. Thank you, Cheat Engine. Praise be thy name. And then, we learn about there's like trying to remember what it's called. Character stories. And so character stories are either characters that are in our team already or characters that we can recruit onto our team. We do like a little story with them, like a side story, and then that unlocks stuff. And so we start with what's her name? It's like Vula or something. She's the water mage who's in love with Gray. And she wants to go on like an adventure with him, like a date. And everyone's like, oh, that's so adorable. And Gray is oblivious and also angry. But at the same time, he like cares for her. It's a very odd relationship. But she's super into it, so I guess that's okay. And so we start with that as our first example of like a story quest. So Gray and Juvia head out on their like... Juvia is the water lady mage, who I forgot the name. Gray and Juvia head out on their like date adventure, and so we go wander around the town a little bit, and I find some pots so I can upgrade the item shop again, just like out about town, and then we head out into the plains north of town and just kill some monsters. And I've run into this monster that I need to kill to get like items to upgrade one of the parts of the guild, and this thing, it's like a wolf with 2 birds, and they kick the shit out of me, and I was like, I am very underleveled for this. So we have to go back to the guild. Because when you die, you either have to retry the battle or go back to the guild, which is whatever, because then we just fast travel back to that map. And then we just go straight and kill a bunch of like mermaid creatures, and then resolve. And then there's a whole cutesy scene where Juvia's like, give me a hug! And Gray's like, leave me alone! Because they have like that kind of relationship. And adorbs. So then Juvia joins our party, so now she's one of our friends, quote unquote. Back at the base, I switch back to my dream party, which is Wendy, Urza, and beautiful Lucy Heartfilia. And we get some more. We get well, first I go to the board, and at this juncture, it's just like, all right, so I have now upgraded everything enough to be at level C versus level D for like the rankings among the guilds. And so I unlock like some more abilities. So then we learn from the master, there's like this save ability. So when you get hit, when your party gets hit really hard and almost dies essentially, then he'll come and like cast a barrier and a healing spell on everybody. And then also when we charge up our like Fairy Tail Guild super attack, like Limit Break, there we can use like I think it's called like God Hand. No, God Hand I think is the one that protects you. And then he has another which does a big attack against the enemy from him as well. And those are like our rewards for getting to like C rank for the guild. So that's fun. And then, yeah, so at this point, it's just like time to keep doing quests to try to level up the guild, to like level up our guys so that we can do other stuff. And there is it does unlock some more kind of story stuff around so that we can increase people's like bond levels and all that stuff as well. So we unlock at this point some more story quests with guys. And these story quests are not what you think. They're not quests. They're some of them are more like story quests, as in what you would traditionally think of a quest. Like you talk to somebody, they have like some bullshit they want to do, and you have to go track them down. So for example, Wendy, her story quest is she gets some picture drawn of her, what she would look like 7 years down the road from some guy, And it shows her to be flat-chested, and she's very concerned. And Lucy's like, wow, you look so beautiful in this picture. And then Wendy's like, you wouldn't understand. And she runs off. And then Lucy's like, I got to talk to someone else who would understand this girl more. And so she talks to her friend. Oh, shoot, I forgot her name. The blue-haired chick she's like best friends with in the guild that we never seen. That's rarely around. But she's like, you don't understand. You're blessed with bountiful bosoms. And Lucy's like, you really think they're that great? And she's like, oh my gosh, you can't understand. What I'm going to do is have that guy redraw the picture and give her like great breasts. And so she does, and then you track down Wendy in the town, and she's like, I love this picture, it's the best. Thanks, Lucy. That means so much to me. And then you like unlock her like next level, the next 3 stars, and like her level up. So I don't know if I talked about this too much. You have regular leveling, you just kill monsters, you get experience points, you get new stats. And then you can unlock like new abilities or like extra combos for like your super fairy tale guild attack or different costumes and stuff by leveling up. I can't remember what they call it. Something. But each star costs a certain amount of like fairy tale points that you get from like doing tasks and whatnot. Anyway, so whenever anyone is in your party initially, you get the first 3 stars that you can spend points to power up. And then after you do these story quests, you can go up to level 6. So when working on that, there's Wendy's, what else did I do? Natsu's is like, he's hungry. So him and Happy go to like fish, and they don't get anything, but Happy's like, I got a fish, and they eat all the meat off, and Natsu's sad, and that's his story quest. And then Earth says, like, I could go for some candy, and so you just go to like the candy marker in town, and then come back, and she's like, all right, and that levels her up. Good stuff. There's lots of these little like side story things that are just like kind of fun and cheesy and easy to do. This game is like comfort food. Playing this game thus far is like eating. It's like I used to call it bachelor chow. So there was a while where I've been married for like a long time, decades, and when we first got married, we did not live together because of like the army and my wife having a job and then going to law school and all this crazy stuff. Anyway, so I would just eat bachelor chow, and bachelor chow is like super comfort food. It was like very healthy. It was just like vegetables and meat with some like sauce, usually like a homemade marinara sauce kind of situation. Not always marinara, but like a red sauce, right? Because I'm Sicilian, so that's what we do. But I would just eat it, and it would just be warm, and it would taste delicious, and it was like the same thing every day. And playing this game is like that. It's like the end of my day, I just want to sit down, and I'm playing Fairy Tale, and I'm not stressed, and nothing's hard or difficult or confusing. Or like I don't have to like try to put together some like obscure story. Like everything's really in your face. All the characters are fun, and like high five each other constantly, and everyone's optimistic. It's just like, yeah, this is nice. It's like having some warm chamomile tea. It's like cold outside, and you're sitting by a fire, just drinking your chamomile tea and like reading a good book. Like not a crazy book, right? Just like something nice and pleasant. And it's just like, no, this is nice. That's what it feels like playing this game. I thoroughly enjoy it. It is dumb. I can't even say it's a good game. But every time I put it on, I'm like, this is nice. I feel nice. That's what all these moments are. These like little moments. And then there's like, the more you fight with somebody, or you do these guild requests, right? Which is like the board where you can get money. And you also get, it's where you get like your reputation points to like level up your reputation for each character or whatever. And you can also earn these like, they're like notes. I can't remember what they are. It's a bond level. You can level up your bond level, and when you have higher bond level, stuff happens. But then there's always like a little story afterwards too. Like I leveled up Wendy's bond level, and it was like, Wendy, we're like super besties, and we love to go do this stuff. Hooray! And that was like it. And then Earth says like, her and Lucy, their bond level match is like, hey, we need to go get tea sometime. And then Earth says like, yeah, I know this awesome tea place. We should definitely go there. And they're like, high five! And it's like, bond level up. And I'm like, this game is so fucking delightful. I can't get over it. Like, and it's gonna be over so fast. Like I am like barely touching on like the main story. Like I almost am purposely avoiding it, just like grind or do some of these other things, like make my guys super strong. And I'm cheating, so I have like unlimited money and unlimited like anything I could possibly get, items and whatnot. But it's not even necessary because I'm playing on an easy difficulty. And it's just like, it's so warm and comfortable. And I literally was playing this game last night, and I fell asleep for a second because I was at. And it's not because it was boring. It's just like I was so comfortable and at peace with what was going on. And it's got this auto battle mode for combat, which is playing the game better than I could ever play the game and faster. And I'm just like, I love this game so much. It's so good. It's fucking good. It's great. And I'm like, man, I gotta watch the fairy tale anime. And then I think back on it, I'm like, oh no, that's like, there's a lot of that. I might download it though. Just have around. I have One Piece. I need to get Dragon Ball too. These animes are so long. These series are so long that I'm gonna get another like 10 terabyte or 20 terabyte drive this year for like my Christmas and birthday gift to myself, or for my extremely rich mother. And I think I'm gonna improve because my server, I just got like a little Raspberry Pi 4, but I think I need to upgrade it. So we'll see. Anyway, all this to say that we continue the main story, right? So the whole thing is like now we got to go to the beach to train. And so we finally, after bullshitting around and leveling up and just grinding some stuff and doing some of this and doing some of that and like leveling up my item shop and leveling up the guild board and doing some guild quests and all this bullshit, I'm finally like, all right, you know what? I should just keep going. And so I hit up the next episode in chapter 2 by going to the beach. And everyone's like, oh, there's some monsters in the beach. We just got to clear them out and then we can train. And so I kill like 3 or 4 monsters. I just slaughter them completely. And then it's like, all right, then we get some training. And we get Lucy Heartfilia in a bathing suit. Mwah. Thank you, Gust. You are constantly giving me the things that I want. Now, Gust, if you followed me for an extended period of time, you would know that I played through Azure Knight 1 and 2, the same people. So if you watch me, and that I don't think I did a video on, I just did like a live play. If you watch my live play of that, which you can find on, I think all my channels, at least BitChute and YouTube, I want to say. I don't know about Rumble. I don't know if I uploaded my live plays when I was still doing those on Rumble. But anyway, I think everything's on BitChute, but it's at least on YouTube because that's where I was streaming from on my PlayStation 4. Or I think it was a 5 at the time. Anyway, you'll see what I mean. That game is like super busty, hot lesbian babes who are constantly like trying to touch and kiss each other. Azure Knight. Fantastic. This isn't that level. This is very like middle school to like late elementary school, kind of like, you know, ooh, no kissies. But a lot of fan service for like the older brother in the room. Or the dad who's like, what are you watching? What is this? And it's like, oh, hello. I think I'll hang out with you guys while you watch this show. And all I gotta say is anime, building bonds between fathers and sons for generations. Anyway, so we kill the monsters, and then we get bathing suit Lucy and everyone else, you know, and she's just practicing her stuff, and she's chit-chatting with one of her summons, the Capricorn, the sheep or the goat or whatever it is, about just like her mom, and they start talking about primal magic, which I feel like is going to be relevant because they talk about how Hades was talking about primal magic, and primal magic is like the source of all the magics, and that Zareth had some evil designs for it, but that Lucy's mom talked about it too as like a good thing, and that her guess is that primal magic is love. Like, I love this. I love it so much. It's so fucking good. And then Natsu works on his stuff and whatnot, and then the maid, what's her name? Lucy's like maid summons Virgo, I think. Yeah, I think it's Virgo. Virgo shows up and she's like, "Oh, the spirit world's been attacked, or it's in trouble. It's dissolving apart, and we need to go right now." And so all the fairy tale people that are there are like, "Let's do it. Let's go." And then they go, and it's fine. And then the king of the spirits is like, "Hey, thank you for coming. It's time to party. We want to celebrate your return and your safety and all this stuff." And then Lucy's like, "You tricked me," and Virgo's like, "Guilty as charged." And we meet Leon, who is a member, who's a member of Fairy Guild, while also being a spirit, the spirit of Leo. And then we meet Aquas, who's so fucking good. She has this water attack; it just devastates. And she's kind of like see you next Tuesday, but like she's like with a heart of gold. I distinctly remember her from the anime because she would always give Lucy shit and like be like, "I'm not coming. Fuck you, you ugly whore." And I was like, "Burn, damn." So we get to meet a few of these guys, which is delightful. And then they party. And then they head back. And they're like, "Wow, that was a great party." And Virgo's like, "Oh, just so you know, time in the spirit world travels slower than it does in the actual world." And then Natsu's like, "Oh, that means we've been there for a day, but it's only been a couple hours here." And she's like, "The opposite. It's been 3 months." And everyone's like, "No!" Because if you remember, there's a tournament of champions to determine who the best guild is. I don't know if I brought this up. I probably forgot. But anyway, there's a tournament of champions to determine who's the best guild in all of Fiore. And it was supposed to take place in 3 months and like a couple days. And it's now been 3 months. So now they have, Urza's like, well, that means we have 5 days to train. We got to train super hard so we can be the bestest guild forever, be the #1 guild and all this stuff. And everyone's like, fuck. And then someone's like, oh, hey, I found a letter. It says, come to the bridge that's over there. And so we head over to the bridge, and then the bridge like is broken, but now it's healed magically. And so then we cross the bridge, and we just kill some more dudes and do some more stuff. And eventually we get to this like other beach hideaway, and we run into Jarrell. So Jarrell is a character that I distinctly remember because he's the main bad guy in one of the arcs. And then there's a couple chicks with him, and they were all members of the Grimoire Guild, which was a dark guild, if I remember correctly. So there's like the normal guilds, which are part of like the guild system. Then there's like the evil guilds, which are like Grimoire and some others. And then there's like independent guilds. Anyway, so Jarrell, him and Urza had like a romantic entanglement before he like gave his heart over to the dark side. I don't remember the entire arc. Again, I watched this thing like, I don't know, maybe it was a long time ago. I think I was in undergrad maybe, so it was like 20 years ago. But it was very intense and dark. And but now he's like, he redeemed himself. He went to jail, and then these guys broke him out, and then they started a new guild called like, it's like Sorcerer something, like Rebel Sorcerer or Rogue Sorcerer or whatever. And their whole thing now is that they're hunting the evil guilds. And this tournament, there's an issue with this tournament because it takes place like every year. And for the last 7 years or whatever or more, there's been like weird magic signals coming from it, but they can't do anything because he's like an outlaw, and these other girls are, they were like members of this evil guild, so they're like kind of staying far away. So they want to elicit the aid of Fairy Tail to go and like check out what's going on and to see if there's like any sign of Zarif or like any dark magics that they can like, and then they'll like hop in and help out, get rid of, just to make sure that like it's not being overcome or anything. So some very shonen stuff. And then to help us out, because we're like, oh shit, man, we really got to get boofed up in like 5 months. We lost like, or 5 days. We lost like 3 months of work because of like some crazy bullshit party in like a spirit realm. And the one girl, I forget her name, is like, hey, don't worry about it. I have this item that will let you get like second, what does she call it? It's like second act or second power. Anyway, what it does is it unlocks a limit break, essentially, another limit break. So there's the guild, there's the party limit break, and then now this unlocks kind of like an individual limit break. So as you are in battles and doing stuff, it charges up a gauge, and when you get to the top of that gauge, you can activate it, and it gives you like a stat boost for a little bit of time, heals you, and kind of gives you life and mana every turn. So you can just go like hog wild. So that's fun. So we do that. We do like a pretend battle against Jarrell. Not a pretend. We do like a what do you call it? Like just a friendly duel with him to like practice using these new abilities, and that's pretty good. And then everyone's like, cool, awesome, high fives. And then Jarrell and the crew are like, all right, we'll keep an eye on you guys, and we're gonna go. And then Urza gets like real pissed off because she's like, because they're like in love and whatnot, and she's like, no, I'm not gonna let him just run off again. So she takes off and follows him, and they have like a conversation while he's standing on the beach, and he's like, we can't be together. Or no, he doesn't say that. They just like chit chat about him being in jail and her being gone and stuff. And then they end up like almost kissing. But then he stops and he's like, I can't kiss you. I'm sorry. I'm engaged. I have a fiance. And she's like, oh, I get it. That's okay. Maybe it's better this way. Whatever. And then he like walks off. And then the girls that are with him are like, a fiance, huh? Why'd you lie to her? Like, you clearly like her. And he's like, well, we can't be together. Drama. And then we go back to Urza, and she's like, fiance, huh? He's always been a bad liar, but that's okay. I'm just gonna be good, and once we take care of this dark magic stuff, maybe we can like be friends or closer together. Aw, it's so sweet. All right, so I think that wraps up everything that's going on there. Then now we're in like chapter 3. Now we're in episode 3, because episode 1 was like getting to the beach. Episode 2 was like doing this whole business, and then now we're in like episode 3 of chapter 2. So we head back to the guild. We power up some of the. We upgrade the rest of the guild stuff because one of the things was in the beach level. But the other one was killing that wolf that was giving me a hard time, which I finally got rid of. And then, I'm like, okay, cool. So now I'm gonna try to work and get the rest of these like story character levels up, because I have like Juvia did hers. I did Juvia, Natsu, Urza, and Wendy. So I still have Lucy and Gray to take care of. All right, so continuing on with chapter 3, I spent a lot of time here just kind of like grinding out quests and like so every guild level, so like we start at level D, then we get to level C, you have like a checklist of things to do. When you complete that checklist, you get like a present. You get like a bunch of items and stuff, which some of them are like ways to you got to like, and you get this from like the candy guide too. Like you unlock lacrima recipes, which lacrima are the only item you can equip, right? And you can equip. I think when you get to level 30 or 40, you have a total of like 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 5 or 6 slots, and I think I've even earned slots through just like my rep bonus from each character. Anyway, so it's kind of a big deal because it's like the only item you really that powers you up outside of just like straight up leveling. And some of this other like mechanics, the bond mechanics. There's actually surprisingly a lot of mechanics in this game, which is clearly just kind of like, I don't want to call it a complete cash grab, but it's just interesting. Like I look at games made in the past, like on the Super Nintendo, the Sega Genesis, stuff like that, like Aladdin, which is just like, oh hey, we have this property, we want to like quickly push out a game so that we can make like extra money on the side from people like, oh I like Aladdin, I'm gonna buy the Sega Genesis version of Aladdin or Super Nintendo or version of Lion King or two that I remember from Disney that were like very well received. I think the Disney Aladdin for Super Nintendo I was also good, but the Sega Genesis one, from what I recall, when I guess I had both, was much better. Not much better, but it was much better. I'll stick with that. Anyway, but it just, playing this game reminds me of like, oh yeah, Western companies used to make these like kind of cheeky knockoffs of like kids properties or just movies or whatever, and they were good. Like, and somewhere, I mean, this is like, we're talking like 80s to early 90s, like somewhere in the late 90s, 2000s, that kind of like went away. Like you'd get these like, I can't remember, I don't know what to call them, like franchise games, and they were just not good for the most part. But I feel like I played several of these like anime-based ones, especially these shonen ones, whether they're like a Dragon Ball fighting game or a lot of role-playing games. They had a lot of they had a lot of like Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball and Magic Knight Re-Earth, like role-playing games that were like very intense. And like you can go back on this channel on BitChute, YouTube, and Rumble on Comrade Bear stuff, and see me review all the Magic Knight Re-Earth games along with the anime, and you can see like the quality was pretty good across the board. There was like one game that was like, fuck that game. But they had like 2 Game Boy games, 2 Genesis, or no, a Saturn game, a Super Nintendo game, and like 2 Game Gear games. And they were all like games you could play that were interesting, that had like something to do. And it wasn't like these were like wouldn't say any of them were like, this changed the way I view games, or just like my favorite game of all time, but they were all more than passable. They were like enjoyable to play. And that's how I feel about this. It's like there's a lot of shit going on. Like for being just like, hey, Fairy Tail's popular, let's make a game based on Fairy Tail, and then it'll make a bunch of money because people want to play Fairy Tail and like cash grab that out. It was like I'm enjoying myself, like I keep mentioning, like everything about this. Like I was just kind of grinding, like to get through a lot of the quest boards to kind of level up a little bit, but also just to kind of get some of these like item packets and stuff and earn some more rep. And I was enjoying myself the entire time. And you gotta get through, yeah. And then I worked my way up to like B class, B class, which unlocked like B quests. And I did one of those B quests, and I just feel like there's not going to be a lot to this game. My understanding is that there's a huge post game kind of situation, but we'll see about that. Anyway, so in the midst of doing all that, I eventually meander across like the Capital Highway to the Capital for the Grand Mage tournament situation. And at some point in all this process, the Guildmaster, who's now like the seventh Guildmaster, is like, hey, Jarrell's looking for you. He wants to go test your strength. So we go test your strength, and we get like a second level of like our second output thing. So we get like 2. So our limit break now is like 2 levels essentially instead of just the 1. So we can like do it twice or whatever. And so that's nice. And they just like chit chat. Hey, you think you're strong enough? You guys are gonna do great. You're gonna conquer the tournament. Yada yada yada. We head off to the Capitol, through the Capitol Road, do some more like kind of side questy stuff. We get there, and the master has like signed us up for the tournament. And then because we're part of the tournament, we get like a hotel essentially, or like an apartment that we can all stay in. So that's like, we have a second base of operations here that has mostly the same stuff. Our friends, the hot white-haired ladies, they are there as well, and they reveal to us that now that the previous guild has like improved somewhat, that they've opened up like the kitchen, the storeroom, and the library. And so that now we can go and like upgrade those areas too. And what they do is the more we upgrade the kitchen, the more everyone just has like a baseline like percentage HP boost, which is great. And then the library is mostly the people who are not in our party, they always get like 50% experience, but we can like level that up. So now it's a higher percentage of like the experience points that we're earning, so that we don't have to like do as much catch up. And then the storeroom will just periodically have items for us to have, as we like do adventures and quests and stuff. We can go in there and like pick up stuff. So we just got to go hit that out every once in a while. So I spent some time leveling those up because everything has like a level in this game. So I got to go do quests to get those leveled up, and then turn in items. And that I spent a lot of time just kind of like doing all this stuff so I can kind of power through the story. So once we get all that done, I'm trying to think if anything came up in some of these quests. A couple of the quests are like very oriented towards like one of them's like you just play Lucy Heartfalia by herself, and she just goes and like chats with people. One of them is Wendy, and she goes and meets this like old woman who's a member of the Fairy Tale Guild but doesn't like anybody in the Fairy Tale Guild, which I remember seeing her in the anime a couple of times. She's like a very powerful mage. She's like part of Fairy Tale but just lives on her own, and her and Wendy have like a cute connection. Urza runs into Jarell again, and they just like chit chat about stuff. What is Lucy's whole thing? Oh, there's a quest where we have to like turn mail in, and there's like a book. We get some bond levels up, stuff like that. And then it's like, all right, so before the tournament starts, we got to walk around the capital and check all that stuff out. So we head to the first area, which is like the main fountain area, and then we run into this guy. I can't remember his name, but he's from a different guild, and he's also an ice mage, and he's in love with Juvia. But Juvia's in love with Gray, and Gray's like kind of oblivious to the whole situation. But Juvia thinks that Gray likes Lucy because they're buddies, but Lucy will continually be like, you have totally got that wrong. Like, I have absolutely no fucking interest in that guy. So I think it's pretty funny. Anyway, so the guy comes up and he challenges Gray. He's like, we're gonna beat you. We're the best guild, and you're gonna get embarrassed. And then Gray's like, no, you're gonna get embarrassed. We're gonna beat the shit out of you. And the guy's like, let's wager on it. If we win, we get Juvia. And Gray's like, that's ridiculous. She's part of Fairy Tale. We'd never let her up. And what would we get if we win? And he's like, you're going to keep Juvia. And he's like, what? That's not a gamble. And then they like almost come to blows, but then Juvia like calms him down, and she's like, we got it. We're going to take care of these guys and mess them up. And then Gray's like, yeah, we're going to get you. So we continue to meander about town, investigating all the things and meeting people from various other guilds. There's a bandit magic guild, which I didn't realize was a thing. They're just being like assholes by a clock tower, and we fight them because why not? We run into some guys from the it's not the Viper Guild. I don't remember. They're like the top guild in Fiore right now, and they're total assholes. They're two guys who were raised by dragons. They're the dragon slayers, just like Wendy and Gael and Natsu, but they killed their parents. They killed the dragon parents. It's like a whole thing. If you Google it, I'm not going to go into it. I don't know that much about it, to be completely honest. But I know that part of being a dragon slayer is that you're raised by a dragon. It's like dragon slayer magic is not actually about slaying dragons. It's about being raised by dragons. So you're like part dragon or something, and they call it dragon slayer magic. I don't know too much of the deep lore on that, but it's something like that. So that's why they all have these like elemental powers or whatnot. Anyway, and then you go check out like the capital, and then it's time to return and get ready for the tournament. So we head back, and then we hear from like the tournament organizers that there's like 135 guilds or whatever, 135 teams that are competing, and only 8 are going to go into like the actual tournament. And so to determine who the 8 teams are, there's a race through like this labyrinth to get to the end, and we virtually do nothing as part of that. We have like 2 battles, and we just see that like there's maps to be collected. I feel like this is like a whole arc that we just like are not, the game makers are like, meh, fuck it. So we get through and we win, but we're number 8th place. And then so we go to the tournament like a couple days later. And I'm trying to, was there anything that happened in between here and there that was important? No, I don't think so. So we go to the actual tournament, and we come in, and they're announcing all the teams. So there's like this team and that team and that team. I don't remember all the names. And then we learn that there's one team, the team Grimoire, maybe? But they're like, they used to be like evil mages, and their guild master is the son of our guild master, the old man, and they're just total assholes. And totally bad guys. And at some point we got to take Wendy. It's like, oh, where's Wendy? We can't find Wendy. Wendy must have wandered off. She was supposed to be part of our like 5-man team or whatever. And so this other guy comes with us. He doesn't do shit. I don't know why that was even like a thing. Probably because it was in the anime and it was more important there. But so then And we also learned there's 2 fairy tale teams, and their fairy tale team got in too. They were like number whatever 7th place, and we were number 8th place. And on that team is Joel, Juvia, Laxus, who's one of the best members of the guild, and then Mystergo, who is actually Jarrell in disguise. But they also have like a combined soul. There's like a whole thing about that. So they like have a chat about that, like secretly, because it's like you don't really remember a fairy tale. And then Mavis, is it Mavis? Who is like the first master of fairy tale, right? She's like buried on the island, but her like spirit comes out. She's like this girl with wings, this little girl. And so she's like, "Hey, you, what's going on with that?" And because is that guy actually remember a fairy tale? And then like the master is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I mean, he kind of is, but not really, sort of. Some crazy anime bullshit. And she's like, "I'll allow it as long as fairy tale wins." And so everyone's cool with it. And then you go talk to some people. Like Urza and Jarrell have like a little conversation about his whole thing, and they're like, "Whatever, it's gonna be great." And then we go talk to the guys from the like Love Guild. I can't remember what it's called, but the guy who was like talking about how he's going to steal Juvia away from Gray and all that stuff. And we meet like one of the other ones from that guild as well. So they're there as well. All right, so then we find out that every day there's going to be like 2 events. There's going to be like a morning event, and there's going to be an evening event. And so the morning event is called Hidden. We don't have any. You don't know the rules of the event until the event actually starts. And so we get like a journal entry about the actual event from Lucy. But what ends up happening is between Juvia and Gray and then the guy from like the Love Guild, they're all like fighting, and they're like, "We're all gonna go do this. We're gonna be hidden." And then Gray gets like he gets last place, but that's because that Grimoire Guild or whatever like targets him specifically, and they're doing like some shady shit. And we also find out at some point that they're the ones who like poisoned Wendy. Oh yeah, I forgot. Wendy's gone. She wasn't gone. She was poisoned like the garden. And then we found her, and we kind of tried to heal her up, but it was like a magic poison where like all her magic was gone. So then she like passed out. And then at some point, she gets kidnapped, but we run after her, and they were kidnapped by like the Bandit Guild, and so we beat them up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, someone from Grimoire told us to go kidnap the sleeping girl," and then someone thinks it was Lucy. This takes place actually after a battle. So then we have the battle, and the battle's a 1-on-1 battle, and it ends up being like Crimson something from like the Grimoire from the Evil Guild, who somehow snuck into this whole event. And versus Lucy, and I kicked the shit out of this woman, so that's phase 1, and then phase 2 is she uses like her hair magic to like keep to like threaten a child, and so Lucy can't do anything, but then Natsu rescues the child, and then I beat the shit out of her again, but then I just automatically lose in the story because someone cast like a spell that like drained all of Lucy's magic. So even though I beat the shit out of this woman like multiple times and she was all bruised and cut up, I still lost. I got last place. Whatever, fucking game. That was kind of frustrating. It's very like anime-ish. And then Natsu comes to like cheer her up and make everything be okay. We also have like a side story. Or not a side story. There's like a side moment where we go and see like the Princess of Fioria, and she's talking to one of her knights, and they're talking about some shady shit. Like a circle of magic and like something. So I don't know if it's like it made it seem real shady. Like they might be involved in like this dark magic. That is the reason that the Jarrell and his crew are like researching or trying to figure out what's going on, that they might be somehow involved. But if it's an anime, so it's like it's fairy tale specifically. So I could see that be like a complete misunderstanding on our end because they just gave us like information that was not 100% correct. It's like an anime. Let me think. Okay, yeah. So that was day 1 and day 0, and yeah, cool. So moving forward on to day 2. So the next couple days of the tournament continue on as before. Instead of having like a weird hidden rule where I just get like a story bit and that's it to move on, we have just more battles. So one of the battles is a team-up battle where we get 2 of our guys and they go and fight. But it's not 2 of our guys. We team up with another guild. So we have the Ice guy from the Lamia guild, and then we have Gray. They team up to fight 2 people from another guild, the Perfume guy, if you're familiar with that, and then the Mermaid lady who beat the shit out of the one from the sniper school or whatever, the number 1 thing. And then we beat the shit out of them, like no problems. And I was like, well, that was odd. I think I forgot to mention that before, but yeah, there's this girl from Mermaid Tale who's the all-female guild, and she goes against the summoner. It's not. They don't call it summoners here. It's like the Keyblade Master. It's like what Lucy does. She collects like keys, and then she can make summons of the Zodiac. And so she's got 10 of the keys, and then this lady from the other guild has 2 of the keys. And she goes up against Mermaid Tail, and the Mermaid Tail lady just like devastates her in like a single attack or whatever. And there's like a whole side story with that, where she comes to like give Lucy her keys so that Lucy can have all 12 keys, because once she has all 12 keys, she'll have all the keys of the Zodiac, and that makes her like super strong. And there's like some story about someone getting all the 12 keys and opening the gate and all that stuff. But Lucy turns her down because she is all about the relationship with the keys, with the summons. And if she just took like the summons from somebody else without earning their trust or earning their respect, then it would cause problems. And she just feels bad for her. And then Natsu chases after her after she leaves, because she mentions that she got kicked out of the guild. And then she tells him like the whole story, and it's pretty rough. So not only did she get kicked out, they like made her get naked and remove the brand of the guild, because every guild, when you join them, you get like a little brand. It's not like a harmful brand, it's like a magic brand. So the Fairy Tale, it's like a little, I almost want to say like chocobo with like wings or whatever. But everyone's got their own brand, so you know which guild they're a member of. And so she tells this like horrible story, and then Natsu like gets super pissed. So then he runs to, it's like a snake guild. I can't remember what it is. So he runs over there and like starts screaming at them and wants to fight the other 2 dragon guys, which he got into a fight with before. And then some lady shows up, Minerva, I think, and she's like, "You got to stop. If you want to fight, you can fight it in the tournament." Yada 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 yada. And they're like, brr, 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 very anime, very shonen. So he leaves, and then the 2 dragon guys are like, "Hey, that Natsu guy seems like really more powerful than we initially thought." Because why would we just beat him up and send him on his way? Like, Minerva was literally talking about him killing both of us. So I'm like, and in my head, I thought they were going to invite that other Keyblade Master lady to the Fairy Tale Guild, but they did not. Oh well. All right, so there's that. Then we get a one-on-one battle between Wendy and this other like little girl from the Lamia Guild, and they end up tying. You fight this battle like 3 times, and it's very shonen, where it's like Wendy wins, the other girl like resurrects and beats Wendy, then Wendy wins again, and then it becomes like a tie, and then they like run out of time, because I guess these are time matches, and so they tie, so that's nice. So Fairy Tale Group B as well, but Group A is starting to like rise up in the ranks. Then on the next day, I think the next day is when we have, the next day is Urza. So they choose somebody from the guild, and then there's 100 monsters, and then whoever defeats like the most monsters wins. And so, and the monsters are like different strength and worth different points and such. And so you get to decide how many monsters you want to take on, and then if you lose, you get no points. But if you win, you get like that many points modified by difficulty level or something. So wait, this is not what I wanted to do, huh? No, this is right. So she ends up being the number 1 person. So they put you in like a ranking, and they're like, all right, you choose, and then you choose, and then you choose. So Fairy Tale Group A goes first. So Urza is like, I will take on all 100 monsters. And people are like, what? Nani desu ka? And so she does. And it's you playing them, and my characters are all overpowered for where I'm at right now, so I just devastate these people like beyond belief. And it's like, mission accomplished. So then they had to create like a different spectacle for all the other guilds to compete in, so they weren't going to just let them have no points, because that's, it's like a ranking system. And so Fairy Tale Group B does pretty decently, but not Fairy Tale Group A is like in the top 4 or 5 out of the 8. So they moved up from last place pretty far. At this point, too, in one of the side quests, Urza runs into like this cat lady, and this is one of the ladies that she like grew up with like Jarell, and there's like the whole story, and like I don't know, season 3. It's like it's pretty late. It's probably at least like the 4th or 5th arc in the Fairy Tale series, if not later. where you learn about her past and all this connection and stuff. And you also, her and Jarrell go to like investigate some stuff as well, because Jarrell's starting to be like, hey, I sense like the dark magic and all this stuff, and so they team up to go investigate that further. We get another battle. This time it's Laxus for some reason, Laxus was in Group B, but now he's in Group A or something. I don't know. Anyway, but Laxus, I think he's in Group B. I think we just play him because why not? So Laxus goes to fight Raven Guild, or the Evil Guild, right? And so he goes, and then he sees himself being beat up, and he's like, what the hell? And the guy he's playing against is like, oh, it's illusion magic. Everyone thinks you're losing something. And then you're going to fight me and like all these monsters that I'm hiding with illusion. And Laxus is like, I don't give a fuck. And so then you beat the shit out of him. And then you find out, and then like the Crimson Lady shows up, and then even the Guild Master, who's not supposed to be involved in the tournament at all, he's there. And you beat the shit out of all of them. And then when Laxus does so much damage because he's so strong with his like lightning dragon magic that it exposes everything that just occurred. And then the tournament like banishes them out of the tournament for cheating, right? It's like, good day. And that moves Fair Club up even more. I think they're in third at this juncture at the end of day 3. Yeah, so we're continuing on with there. And then, I knocked out some more side quests and whatnot, just building up my guild rank and leveling everybody up and making sure they got the peak Lacrima and whatnot. The tournament continues. We go into the next day where we get the final face-off. I guess final. We finally get the face-off between the Dragon Slayers. So we get gosh, it's like there's Jarrell, who's the guy from Ezra's past, who's a bad guy but now a good guy, and then there's just like Jalel, who's the Iron Dragon Slayer, Natsu, versus the two douchebags from the Sabretooth Guild, which is the #1 guild. And so that's a fun battle. It's super shonen-y in that we fight these guys and beat them. And I'm so overleveled and overpowered at this point, and I'm playing in easy mode. I don't even need to cheat. Like, I literally smoked the shit out of these guys in like 2 or 3 rounds. But you got to do it like 3 times because they keep powering up, and then they power up again, and then they power up again. But none of that shit matters because Natsu is invincible, and he's super strong, and he's the Goku of the fairy tale universe, where he just nothing can ever. And he can get beat, and then he comes back even stronger than before because he trains in like a gravity pool in like death, or he comes back from death, or he learns true insight, or whatever the hell series you're watching. God, I love Dragon Ball. So fucking good. Anyway, so we beat them up, and then there's a whole thing where they go back, and like their master, who's a total asshole, he's like beating up on him or telling him he's going to kick him out, and then one of the like mascot characters, because all the Dragon Slayers have these like cat mascot characters, like Happy with Natsu, and so essentially one of them like is like, no, you can't do that, master, blah blah blah, and then the master like quote unquote kills him, but in reality Minerva, who's the second strongest or the most strongest fighter in the guild, she like saves him and protects him, and so that all gets resolved in like a diary entry by Lucy. I forgot to wrap up. So Mystigo, or Jarrell dressed as Mystigo, and Urza, they continue their search for like the dark magic, and then they bump into what's her name from the Mermaid Tail Guild, the one who's super strong sword attack, who like completely decimates the other Keyblade user. But I destroy her twice now because we have a fight here and then we beat her up again. Oh, so what happens is we bump into her, and then Mystigo's like mask comes off, and she's like, Jarrell, I will fight you. I am so angry. Da 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 da. And so you beat her up real good, and then the guards like show up, so Mystigo and Urza just like run off before they can figure out what the source of the magic is. And then the cat lady who's friends with Urza shows up, and she's like, what happened to you? And she's like, Jarrell's here. And she's like, oh, Jarrell with Urza. No, I can't believe it. No. We also get another scene from Jarrell where he's wandering around, and then he like bumps into somebody, and he's like, I will take my mask off if you show me who you are. And then he takes his mask off, show Jarrell, and then he's like, oh my gosh, it's you! And then we get like fade out. I don't have an answer for that as of my last playtime of this. So, but the tournament continues, so we do that aspect, and then we learn, that happens after they merge the Fairy Tale Guild teams, because now that Ravenclaw or Raven Talon, whatever, has been dismissed for cheating, they have 7 teams. They want an even number of teams. So Fairy Tail gets the short end of the straw because they're our heroes and they always got to be plucky. So they combine the teams, and even though Fairy Tale was like in second or third place, they have to drop down to, they take the lower of the rankings from the two teams. So they dropped to like fourth place. It's not like that far. And then after they beat up on Sabretooth, they move back up to second place. At this point, we open up a new area because the game again wants me to, it's like, oh, hey, we have like a day off from the tournament stuff, so you should go level up our guild level to level 40. And I'm like already level like 23. And when I say level 23, it's like it goes down, right? Because you're like the number 1 guild. So I'm the number 23rd guild already. And so that progresses instantly. But I got some more guild quests, so I go out and knock those out. I turn some more stuff in. I now have 5 party members I can use. So I go and blow up some of those rocks that were giving me a hard time before when I only had 3 because I wasn't able to over damage that much. But now I can easily over damage. I mean, I'm over damaging at like 50 to 70,000. So almost strong enough to get the final ones because there's like these little star things on the map when you go to them. They're always like an 80,000 over damage. I can't quite get through those yet. I might be able to. The issue is, so you level up each character's like ranking within the guild, and I've only had story quests for Juvia and Wendy, so they can do like a level 3 super attack when we do like the Fairy Tale super attack as a team, which is where you do the over damage, but everyone else is still doing level 2, so I think that's really holding me back. And then I can still only do like 7 attacks in a row, I think. So if once I unlock like a little bit more, like 1 or 2 more characters, like story levels, we should be good to go. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, so the big important story thing that occurred was we run into like Lucy and Natsu run into, it's like Selfie or Sophia or something. She's the one who has the other 2 keys of the Zodiac, and she's a summoner. And we have like a nice little chat with her, and she's doing okay. And then we're cool, we gotta go to tournament stuff, we'll catch you later. And she's like, bye Z. And then she gets approached by the guard guy, who again, like is being shown as kind of like a villain, but my suspicion continues to grow that he's actually a good guy. Because I watch enough of this anime to understand that like when something's kind of like in your face, but it's not like super in your face. It's like in your face in like a sneaky way. Like bad guys in these shows tend to be like bad guys, and so when they're like, "Ooh, is this guy a bad guy?" It's usually like, "No, no, they're not." So she goes off with him in the background. We do some tournament stuff. We come and then we bump into him again, like just hanging out. So then the whole team is hanging out, and we get approached by this guy, and he's like, hey, so we've been using this tournament to collect magic for 7 years because we're trying to send people back in time to destroy Zareth before he becomes immortal. And so we have like an eclipse gate, but we need all the keys of the Zodiac to open the gate so that we can send people like 400 years into the past so that they can fight Zareth. And, the tournament is also a way to like find out who's the strongest. So we know who to send back. And we like Fairy Tale because Fairy Tale is the bomb. And when Natsu and Galel defeated Sabretooth, it kind of showed everybody that they are the most powerful guild, it seems like. So that's what we're going to do. So then we go to the Eclipse Gate, and there's some back and forth about that whole situation, and the other girls there too, and they're like, oh, we got to do this. And then that douchebag that like the prime minister or something shows up with a bunch of guards, and he's like, aha, I'm going to stop you and arrest you because you going back in time is not okay, and something, blah, 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 blah. And then there's like back and forth, and then they take Lucy and the other girl and put them in prison. And then we get a nice scene with them where Lucy's like trying to figure out a way out, and the other girl's just like sad hippopotamus. And so Lucy's like, hey, you got to buck up and take all that energy being sad. It's super anime. Take all that energy being sad and turn it into something productive. And let's find a way out of here. And let's team up and be together and yada yada. And the girl's like laughs and cries still, but is like, hey, God, you remind me of my older sister. She was always a much better magic user than me, but she always like stood up for me. And it's very tropey, but you love it. And you remind me of her. And you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna help you find a way for us to get out of here. I'm gonna do exactly what you just said. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. Meanwhile, Natsu's like, we gotta get Lucy right now. Let's go blow up the entire prison. Oh, and he tried to fight the guards, but the Eclipse Gate, because the whole point of the Eclipse Gate was that it was like absorbing all the magic from the arena during the tournament. So when he tried to use magic that close to it, it's like sucked all the magic out of him. So he's like, brr, and like passed out. And that's why the guards have a clear advantage because they have swords. And, and even like Urza, who wasn't, I don't think she was here for that portion. Oh, she might have been. But she doesn't have she has magic swords. So it's not like she can like really fight back against all these guys either. Let's So then the guild master's like, no, let's build our guild up a little bit more, and then I'll come up with an idea. And so we do that, and we have access to like a bar and then like tables, so that we can like for food service or whatever in the guild. And then so I go off and do some quests to kind of level all that stuff up before we continue on with the main story to rescue Lucy. So we're finally at the last day of the tournament, and the master calls everybody in because we got a plan. We're going to split up the party, and we're going to send 3 people. That's Natsu, Wendy, and Mira. Mira is the kind of like mascot of the party. She's a super hot babe with great tits and everything, and she like is the hostess slash I don't even know what to call her, but the master likes to do photo shoots with her to like spread the word of Fairy Tail. It's something they dwell a lot with in the first little bit of the arcs. This game doesn't really deal with it that much. It kind of like hand waves it and mentions it, but she's also someone you talk to deal with like the guild requests, and she's kind of like almost like a personal assistant slash secretary slash poster child for the Fairy Tail Guild. Anyway, she's very strong magically, and I can't remember exactly because I remember watching the arc where we see her and her siblings, because it's her. She's got a sister and a brother in the guild, and they're like animals. He's the guy who joined us when Wendy couldn't come, and then the other sister. But they're all like extremely powerful magic users. But Mira, for some reason, doesn't usually use her powers, but then she like gets over it. None of this happens in game, so it's not super important. Anyway, so she tags along, and then the other group is going to be led by Urza, and then it's going to include Laxus, Gajel, who's the Iron Dragon guy, Gray, the ice guy, and Juvia, the water lady. And so what's going to happen is this final hurrah for the day is like a battle royale. So all the different guilds are going to like split up and meander about through town. And whenever they run into someone else from another guild, they're going to fight. And so whenever someone's beaten, the guild that beat that person gets a point. And then if you beat like the guild leader, then you get 5 points. And not like the guild master, like the leader of like the team that's going out. So like Urza is the team leader for this. So you'd get 5 points for her. And then 5 points for Minerva from Sabretooth, and then 5 points for like the perfume guy for Lamia, and then 5 points for like the white chick with the katana that she only uses to like revenge her brother. And for some reason, there's like another guild that like we see virtually none of. They're like the Banditos. I can't remember exactly what their name was. But they're like a non-entity essentially. I think at one point we fought like a couple of them just like offhanded, but they're irrelevant, and they're always the lowest on the guild ranking, which is still impressive because they're like number 7 out of like 100 guilds or 50 guilds. I can't remember how many guilds there are in Fiore. So going back to that. So then the first master of the guild, she's hanging out and she's giving like telepathic commands to everybody. So the first thing we do is we send Gajil, the Iron Dragon, and Urza, the Iron Maiden. Okay, she's not called that. She's called like, gosh, she's got a nickname that's like Jonah Arc, if I remember correctly. It's not Jonah Arc, but it's like, I can't remember. They used it once in this game, and that's why I like remembered. I was like, oh yeah, that's what they called her. So we'll just go there. So she's the redhead bombshell. So they're gonna like pincer move the perfume guy, who's like this kind of quote unquote beautiful man who's, you know, he's the head of like, or he's the main guy from Lamia Guild, which is like the love guild, which is the same one as like the ice guy who loves Juvia, and then the other girl who's like Wendy and her like BFFs forever after fighting. So they tag team him, you beat him up real good, and then we switch over to Gray and Juvia, and they're doing the same thing. They're trying to pincer move. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue, her name. Like Shira? I think it's Shira. Shira, who's the other Lamia Guild lady. She's the one who's like Wendy when they fought. And so they pincer move her, but the other ice guy's there too. And then Juvia and Gray are kind of like, not at, they're like evenly matched. And so they have to like combine their magic. And Juvia's all about that because she's in love with Gray, and they get to hold hands and stuff to like cast their ultimate combo magic. And that's where we unlock this ability that certain characters can team up and do like a super combo attack, while we're doing the normal kind of like Fairy Guild limit break attack. That's fun. So they're able to beat those guys. So we get 7 points from that, and I think that puts Fairy Tail in the lead at that point. So the next step is Minerva, because she's the next leader. So Urza and the Iron Dragon Gajil, who I kept calling Galil, I think earlier, they're gonna pincer move Minerva now. But that doesn't work. So Gajeel, when he goes to like circle around where Minerva's position is supposedly at, he bumps into Rogue, who's he's like the Dark Dragon Slayer guy from Sabretooth. And so they chit-chat a little bit, and it seemed Gajeel calls him his little brother, and Rogue mentions Gajeel, like he always looked up to Gajeel, and he wanted to be like him and lead like a guild like Gajeel did before Fairy Tail. And so they fight, and then we have some more like chit-chat about how he never understood why Gajeel would join his enemy Fairy Tail after he got beat, but then he realized that like the friendship is magic. I love that this theme keeps coming up. I was just talking about this. It was a while ago. But in Villainous from an Otame game, and like all Death Flags or whatever. It's an anime I watched and did a review on a while ago. It's the same thing. Like oftentimes, like the power of friendship trumps all things, and it's awesome. I love it. I love anime and its themes. Friendship is magic. So with the power of like friendship being magic, Fairy Tail has become the best guild, and that the reason Gajeel and Juvia cut their guild and then joined this guild was because friendship is magic. Like literally, it's so good. So then you fight him, and then he gets possessed by like this shadow, and I don't know too much about that because I've never seen this guy before in like a arc or anything. When I watched through like the first 100 episodes of the anime, I didn't know it's based on a manga I never read either. But this shadow form of his, or the shadow darkness that kind of possesses him, it possesses him and gives him more strength, and then we fight him again, and then he beats Gajeel and puts him in like a shadow hold or something, and then Gajeel like laughs and turns on his like Iron Dragon form, and this unlocks like the fact that some characters can unlock like forms during combat. So far it's just him, but I think Urza's probably going to have a form as well. I haven't used it at this point, but in the anime she has like this super Valkyrie form she uses. And it's like her Super Saiyan essentially form. So he turns into that. We fight one more time. He's all souped up and powerful, and we beat him up again, and then we win. And then he's like, "You okay?" And Rogue's like, "Yeah, thanks for knocking like that shadow out of me. I appreciate it." And you're like, "Hey, man." And then we switch over to Urza, and it's like, "All right, time to go." Because this is like, meanwhile, Urza's heading over to fight Minerva too, but then she bumps into the white lady from Mermaid Tale. All right, when I say white lady, I mean she's like wearing all white, and she's got that katana that she doesn't unsheath, but she's the one who beat the crap out of Silva, the other the Zodiac summon key lady, who's not Lucy, that we've met so far, who has like the other two keys that Lucy needs. So they chit-chat, and then if you remember, she's the one who ran into Urza and Jareel, the guy who like was involved with like the slavery stuff, and he was like he was trying to resurrect Zareth by like, it was really dark. But now he's a good guy, but he's still like ashamed of his past, and he was like in prison, but then he broke out of prison so he could like search for the darkness, the dark magic in the area or whatever. So they like argue about that, and then they fight, and then you beat her up real good, because I got to be like super overleveled. Again, I think I'm playing on easy mode, but also I just like round out like all these like quests. Like the game keeps being like, "Oh, you got to get your guild rank up to this level," and I'm like, I am so far beyond that. Like I really like did a lot of kind of grinding for a minute there. Anyway, so I kill her in like 3 hits, and then we talk a little bit more, and she's like, we find out that she's the little sister of Simon, and if I remember correctly, we're first learning about this in this game, but from the anime/manga, Simon, so there was Simon, Jareel, the cat lady, and Urza were all like imprisoned and enslaved, and then Jareel somehow like became evil, and then Simon, something happened to him which made Jareel evil, but it was like Urza's fault, and I'm trying to remember, she could do something, but she didn't. It was more like a sin of what's that one where it's not like a sin of omission, I think, where it's not like she did something, but it's the fact that she didn't do something that caused the problem. And so she's crying and she's sad about it, and then the other lady gets like super pissed off and like unsheaths her sword for the first time, and then she goes to attack Urza, but then Urza uses she matches her blade with like her blade magic, and then they're about to like fight it again, but then Minerva shows up and she like uses some super powerful attack on both of them, and is like, "Oh, I am the queen, I will destroy you all," but then they both survive because they're both super powerful. And Minerva's like, that's unfortunate. And then the Katana lady, she goes to like attack Minerva, but then Minerva has like a switcheroo spell. So she switches places with Urza, and then she's like, you two fight, and then I'll come, whoever wins or earn the honor of fighting me. Ooh. And so then she disappears. And so we fight again and we win. And then Minerva does like the last blow. So because she like knocks the Katana lady out for good, she gets like the points, which is weird, even though Urza did all the work. And then it's time to fight her. So we fight her, and then Urza uses like her super form like at some point, but it's all like in cinematics. Her Valkyrie super form, and defeats her. And so it's like, oh, Fairy Tail is defeated, blah blah blah. And at the same time, we don't play through this at all, but we see like Laxus, who's the lightning dragon slayer. He is fighting with a mage saint from another guild, and they go back and forth, and then we get like at the very end, Laxus wins, and it's like, oh, Laxus, he was down for the count, but at the last minute he was able to pull out and win, and he defeated the saint, and blah blah blah. So Fairy Tail is like, racked up another like 10 points, and so they're in first place now. And the only one left, so everyone's defeated except Fairy Tail and Sting. Yeah, I think it's just Sting. Who is the Light Dragon Slayer, or I don't know if he's light, but I think he's the Light Dragon Slayer. The Light Dragon Slayer from Sabretooth. And then there's a whole like backstory. So if you remember, I spoke on, the Guildmaster like, was yelling at him in Rogue, and then he like attacked, and then I think it's a Lecter. Lecter is cat creature that all these Dragon Slayers seem to have wandering around with them. He Lecter like jumped in the way or like vouched for him and then got killed, but then we find out he didn't really get killed. Minerva like put him away secretly, but then Minerva's deal was like he can have Lecter back only if they defeat Fairy Tail and become the #1 guild. And then Sting, I think, killed the old guildmaster, or like beat him up real good, and the only reason he was able to do that is because he used the power of friendship, because friendship is magic, which is the same power Natsu has, which is why he's so strong, because the power of friendship. Like, I'm kind of laughing, but that's like legit what it is. It's like because Natsu has his friends to draw on, it gives him more strength, and he's able to battle more. And so Sting finally was able to access that because he loves Lecter so much as like his super best friend homie. So because he's in danger, and the only way he's going to back is that is like it made it possible for him to have like tap like his deepest well of power. And so he's sitting there waiting, and all the Fairy Tail comes up, and they all like beat the shit up. Like their models look all sad and dragging, and they got that like thatched like dirt/bruise thing they do in this anime, which is pretty funny. And they're like, we're gonna beat you. It doesn't matter that we're all beat up and we're like all tapped out of our magic and stuff, because friendship is magic. And he's like, oh, whatever. I can definitely beat you guys. This is not going to be hard. And they're like, all right, which one do you want to fight first? Because it's supposed to be like a one-on-one, even though it has not been one-on-one like at all this entire time. Like literally, Urza and Gajel like teamed up against the one guy from Lamia scale. Whatever. But he's like, no, I'll take you all on. And then he like looks off in the distance, and he's like, I can't do it. Lecter would not approve of me beating up on people who are like already beat up after they've done so much. And so he says, you know what, I forfeit. And so Fairy Tail wins. And then he's just like about to like cry because Lecter, and then Urza's like, hey, go look over there. And he looks, and there's Lecter, and he's free somehow, and he's running up, and they hug, and it's like, oh. And then the rest of Fairy Tail is standing around. They're like, and everyone's cheering, and everyone in the stadium's cheering, and the people, like the Fairy Tail guys who aren't in the battle are like cheering. But then Gray and I think it's Gajil are like looking off, or maybe Laxus too, and they're like, hey, where's the signal? Because there's supposed to be a signal when they rescued Lucy. That never happened. So then we go back in time. So it's like, meanwhile, all this is going on, Natsu, Wendy, and Mira sneak into the palace. And Mira's got some sort of what do you call it? Like a polymorph spell, where she can look like the guard. So she's pretending to be a guard, and she's taking them to the prison. And then they track down Lucy, and Lucy's like, hey, I need my keys. So we got to go beat up a guard, and then we get her keys, and then we come back and we release her and Sylvie, and then we bump into a mysterious figure, and it's dun dun dun. It's Lucy from the future. What? All right. This part's very confusing. So I'm not going to talk about it in the order that it happened, because I feel like that's more confusing. So we're just going to talk about each individual thing, and then I'll give like a synopsis at the end of everything that's going on, because it involves a lot of like time travel bullshit. All right. So we talked to Lucy. She said 10,000 dragons came through the Eclipse Gate and killed everybody and destroyed the palace. Or no, they didn't come through the Eclipse Gate. They came and attacked the palace. Because remember, the Eclipse Gate is this thing that they're going to use to go back in time to kill Zareth before he gains immortality. That was the idea. All right. So they're chit-chatting, and then in the group, because the other person they rescued was the captain of the guard. And so he's like, is this the person that the princess was talking to? Because she kept talking about somebody from like the future who was giving her information, but I thought it was like, but he didn't know that much about it, but Eclipse Gate. But he's like, it kind of sounds different than what she was saying because he doesn't remember anything about the dragons and whatnot. Anyway, so then they're about to leave to go through the Eclipse Gate or to kind of figure out what to do with that or to close the Eclipse Gate or something like that. When Rogue from the future shows up, and he's like, aha, I'm here to stop you, Lucy, because you're going to close the Eclipse Gate, and we're going to use the Eclipse Gate as like a cannon to destroy the 10,000 dragons that are going to come invade. And future Lucy's like, I don't know that. That doesn't sound anything like my future. And then the Rogue shoots like a powerful blast at present Lucy, and future Lucy jumps in the way and gets killed. And they're like, no, I'm so sad. And she's like, no, this is great. If you died, I would have disappeared. But if I die, at least I know that I got to see my friends one last time. And it's very sad and everything. And so then it's time to fight. But Natsu and Mira are like, Lucy, you get out of here with Sylvie or whatever her name is. And the captain of the guard already like took off to go find the princess and see what's going on. So Natsu and Mira fight Rogue, but then Rogue beats them and puts Natsu in like a shadow thing. And then Jarrell, and then Rogue goes off to hunt down Lucy. And then Jarrell and his crew of ladies, who also ran into like future Lucy at some point, they show up to rescue Natsu, and they're trying to rescue him, but then Natsu's able to pull himself out of the shadow thing because of the power of friendship. And so they join us with Mira, who is kind of like absent from this whole story bit for some reason. And we head out to the main plaza. So meanwhile, while that's going on, Lucy and Sylvie and Wendy head out, and they see all these guards, and they're all getting the Eclipse Gate is like opening, and they see that a bunch of dragons are actually coming through the Eclipse Gate. And they're like, oh no! And all the princess is freaking out, and the captain of the guard, and everybody, and they're like, oh no, what happened? We opened the gate till like 40 years ago, and this actually brought the dragons because we thought it was going to do something else. Because meanwhile, where all this is going on, the princess is talking to like, we go back a little bit more in time, and so we get the princess talking to the prime minister, and she's like, she's like, we're going to do the Eclipse Gate or whatever. And he's like, I can't believe you want to go to the past, it's going to change the past, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, we're going to use it as a cannon. We're going to use a cannon because someone from the future came and told me there was going to be 10,000 dragons. And we find out that was Rogue. And Rogue's a big liar. Future Rogue, at least. So future Rogue came, told her there's going to be 10,000 dragons that attack, and the way to destroy them is to open up the Eclipse Gate and then turn it into all the magic they've gathered for the last 7 years into a cannon that will kill all the dragons, but they have to wait to the very last second to use it. And that's going to work out great for them. And then when the captain of the guard comes up, they runs into the princess. They have a conversation about that. And he's like, okay, that makes sense. And then everyone's like, all right, we're on board. We're going to destroy all these dragons, and it's going to save the capital and all this stuff. But that was a lie. So when they opened the gate 400 years ago, if we remember all the way back to when Lucy and Natsu and Wendy found the dragon graveyard, they were talking about how 400 years ago was when the dragons like ruled, and they were like, they eventually were all destroyed by the human who turned into Angoliac, or whatever its name is, who was a human who became a dragon, the dragon king, and like killed off most of the dragons. Okay. So this is like, the 400 years is like before that happened, and it's like, ruh-roh! So a bunch of dragons come out, including our friend, the like green dragon that we talked to before. So Lucy is at the last second, it's like, wait a second, something's wrong. And so she goes to shut the gate, but she can't do it on her own. And then she teams up with Sylvie or whatever her name is, to summon all 12 Zodiac spirits, and they're able to like close the gate, but not before like the 7 dragons get released. And so then all the guilds that are left, especially Fair Guild, because they're the bestesses ever, and they have like 6 dragon slayers. Oh no, they have Loxus, Gajel, Natsu, Wendy, and then you have from Sabretooth, you got Sting and Rogue, so that's 6. I thought there was a 7th dragon slayer. But anyway, so you have 6 dragon slayer wizards, so they can slay dragons. So they're gonna like, the kingdom is like, please help us like get rid of these dragons, because 7 dragons is still a lot of dragons in like one area, and they're gonna cause like a lot of fucking damage. And so then it's our mission to like split up the groups so that there's a dragon slayer per dragon, and then they'll tag. We'll get some other like people to tag along so that we can defeat all the dragons and save the kingdom. All right, so yeah. Oh, and then so Rogue had planned this all along. Okay, so now let's get to the synopsis. So we learned that Rogue had planned this all along because he wanted the dragons to come out, because he wanted to take control of the dragons, because he wanted to use the dragons to fight Angologic. Because in his future, which is different than the future Lucy's future, and Angologic, in 7 years' time after this, he destroyed everybody and like enslaved the world essentially. And so with the power of these dragons, he can defeat Angologic, and then he can become the Dragon King. And so that's his plan. Okay. So the synopsis is there are two futures. There's Lucy future and Rogue future. In Lucy future, the gate was opened, and the 10,000 dragons came out and destroyed everything. And then she somehow was able to access part of like the Eclipse Gate, which still had a little bit of magic left, even though it was partially destroyed, to travel back to warn Jariel and the party in the dungeon. So she's only been around for a couple days. And so she was able to warn these guys that they need to close, but she didn't know she needed to close the gate because she didn't know where the dragons even came from. But just that this was going to happen. All right, so that was almost kind of just like a sad thing that happened, that she didn't really give that much information from what I could tell. Just reading everything. And then at the same time, in like a separate future where the gate was closed by Lucy, because Rogue's, that's why I want to kill Lucy, because she's going to close the gate. Rogue lived in a world where Angologic, which is the dragon from the very beginning of the game, like destroyed everything. So he wants to come back in time as a dragon slayer and take possession of a bunch of dragons to fight Angologic, defeat him, but then he, it's not to help anybody, it's so that he can now become, because this Rogue is clearly possessed by like his shadow half or whatever. All right, and the game is very nice because it's all very confusing, because it gives you like a chart at some point, and it just like has like a flow chart, and it's like, this is where you're at, this is this future, she came back here, this is this future, this is how this future happened, it came back here, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It's all stupid time travel bullshit, but at least I can look at it, and it makes some semblance of like understanding. All right, so then we split up to start fighting the dragons with the Dragon Slayers. So the dragon fights, this whole section is very awesome. Not gonna lie. So Natso and Laxus head off. We get two characters that we can put anywhere we want. We get Galel, or Gagel, and we get the Perfume guy. So I get the Perfume guy to Natso and Lexus in their party. And then I put Gagel, the Iron Dragon, with Urza and Jarell, which is hilarious, because at some point, we'll get there. So Natso and Laxus' group, we just beat up a bunch of monsters, head to the Fire Dragon Atlas, kick his shit in, and then the guy's like, "You're eating fire. You look and you don't look familiar, but your technique is very familiar. Who raised you?" And he's like, "Oh, Ignis, the King of Dragons," or whatever. My Ignis is my dad. And he's like, "Oh, that's my homie. That's the King of Dragons." And then Natsu starts calling him Uncle Atlas, which is adorbs. So then from there we switch to Lucy, Wendy, and Mira. Remember, Wendy's a dragon slayer of wind or whatever. So their job, they help a bunch of citizens out, and then they bump into the Jade Dragon, who doesn't remember them from... He's the guy we talked to in like the Dragon Graveyard, who's been dead. But he obviously doesn't remember, because this is him from the past. And he loves casting spells that remove clothes from women, so we get a nice sexy shot of Lucy. I appreciate it. Gust. So we beat the shit out of him, but then like we quote-unquote are struggling to beat him. And so Flair, who's that crazy woman who fought Lucy in the tournament, who's a member of like Graveyard Shift? the Evil Guild. She's like, "I want to help." And so she does, and then we win. But we don't kill the dragon. The dragon just like, because you don't kill anything in Fairy Tail. Nothing ever dies. So we... And so he flies off, and they're like, "Oh, we got to chase him." Next, we go to Urza and Jalel, and they can't fight a dragon because they don't have a dragon slayer in their party. As I like look over the status screen and see good gel sitting right there, and I'm like, okay. Granted, he's optional, but still, like, why make that an option if it's going to be so ridiculous? But whatever. So they fight a bunch of goons, and then they get to, like, the bigger goons, because the Diamond Dragon Gloom Face? Gloom something. Keeps dropping eggs, and the eggs keep popping out with, like, these, like, dragon monster thingies. They're not even like dragons. They're more like, they almost look like the alien from the Aliens franchise. Only more dragony, I guess. Anyway, so we beat a bunch of them, and then, like, oh no, there's so many, what are we going to do? And then the katana lady shows up, and she's like, I'm going to help. And Jarell's like, really? And she's like, I'm still mad at you. But yes, but I owe Urza a favor. So then you beat the shit out of them a bunch, and you win. And then the cat lady's, like, around, and she's like, I can't believe we're helping this asshole. And then old Tyr shows up, and she's like, if you got a problem with him, you should have a problem with me, because I'm the one who, like, possessed him or mind controlled him to get him, and I'm the one who built, like, the tower to heaven, and the slavery is all my fault and everything. But we got bigger issues, so come track me down after this is all over, and you can get your revenge. Spoiler alert: she cannot do that for reasons that will become clear shortly. So once we're with that crew, we flip over to, like, a cutscene essentially of Rogue and Sting. Oh no, just Rogue. Rogue's fighting and he's losing against his dragon, and then Old Terra's there, and then she recalls that she had a conversation with Natsu, and she's like, what we got to do is kill Rogue, because if we kill past Rogue, future Rogue will never come back, and all this stuff will go away. And Natsu's like, no, we can't kill past Rogue, because our present Rogue is innocent. We have to go. I'm going to go kill future Rogue, and that'll take care of all these problems. And she's like, whatever. And so she goes, and she's seeing him beat up and almost dead, and she's like, aha, I have an idea. Because Dragon won't finish him off, because future Rogue told him specifically, because he's still, like, in possession of them, of the dragons, even though Atlas is like, fuck your possession, I'm going to do what I want. Right, so the dragon's not going to kill Rogue, but Rogue's pretty beat up, so Alter's considering doing something about it, and then she decides not to, which is against, like, her nature as, like, an evil person, I guess. And she's like, maybe I have changed and been redeemed. And then Sting shows up, and he brings the dragon he was fighting, who has no name. And they're like, all right, twin dragon powers, let's do this! Yeah! And then we flash over to Gray, Juvia, and the Lamia scale kiddos, which is the girl and the guy who's in love with Juvia. And they again, they have no Dragon Slayer in their crew, but this time it's 100% they don't have Dragon Slayer. So they just rescue guards and walk around killing monsters for a bit. And then at some point they get into, like, another big fight with a bunch of, like, powerful monsters, and they're, like, struggling with that. And then Altair shows up, and she's like, let me help you out. And so with her help, we beat him up. But then, ruh-roh, one of the monsters, like, there's another monster that sneaks up and shoots, like, a super powerful blast at Juvia from, like, behind. And Gray pushes her out of the way and gets hit with it, and for the first time in fairy tale history, dies. He's dead. And everyone's, like, shocked. And then Altair, like, looks up at the clock tower, and she, like, prays, and there's, like, a cutscene, like an actual cutscene, because apparently she has some, like, time reversal magic, but to reverse time, it takes, like, her entire life force, or, like, all her magic. Like, she has to sacrifice. Not just, like, all her magic, now it's time for, like, a nappy. Like, she has to sacrifice all her magic forever. And it drains her, like, soul or something to do this. So she does, and there's, like, a big old magic thing and a big cutscene, and then it's like, you got back 1 minute, congratulations. And she's like, oh no, my whole life is just worth 1 minute. But then we get, but then it's enough time, and everyone has, like, a premonition of what happened. They're like, I feel like I know the future. And so everyone, like, looks to where the monster comes that kills Gray, and they kill it real quick. And then we get, like, a diary entry from Lucy, and she's like, that 1 minute was what changed everything and allowed the humans to counterattack the dragons. Because we get some other shots of, like Gajel, Gajel is fighting on his own, and he gets, like, ambushed as well, but because he goes back in time, like, 1 minute, he's able to defend himself. And so everyone's okay, and it, like, saves everyone's life. So Altair thinks, like, she sacrificed all her magic and didn't save anybody because she was trying to go all the way back to before the gate was open. But in reality, it, like, had a huge dramatic effect, right? So good for her. She, like, sacrificed herself for, like, the good of the many, and it really worked out. Next we let's see, so we did Jalel. Okay, so then we go back to the gate, and they're talking about how they got to destroy the gate, and if they can destroy the gate, well, Lucy, because she picked up, like, the journal from her future self, mentions that if they can destroy the gate, which this is super obvious, that no one will be able to travel back in time, and it will end everything. And then her and the other summoning girl, they like combine their powers to summon all 12 zodiacs, but it's not enough to even like scratch the gate because the gate has so much magic power and all this stuff. And the guard captain is there, and he's sad about it, and everyone's kind of sad about it. Then we flip back to Natsu. Yeah, that's right. We flip back to Natsu, and Atlas is like, and they're like, oh, we got, and they have a conversation like, all right, so we got to get Future Rogue. And then Atlas is like, I feel him pulling on me from like the plaza, so let's go there. And they're like, oh, there's all this stuff in the way. And Natsu's like, can I ride you? And Atlas is like, yes. And Laxus is like, nah, I'm good, bro. I'm just gonna wait here. And the Parfum guy's not even involved because again, he's like an optional character. So we hop on Atlas and we ride over to the plaza. Rogue is just saying a bunch of crazy bullshit and like whatever. So we fight him and we beat the shit out of him. But then Wendy and Lucy show up and they're like, Natsu, you're the only one who can destroy the gate. You got to do it, and we'll fight this guy. And he's like, no, I'm going to take care of Future Rogue right now. And so they all fight together, and then we get like another break, and then Gray and Urza show up, and it plays like the fairy tale theme from like the show and the game and everything. And it's like, yeah. And so we beat up on him again, like real good. And then we combine, and Atlas joins us, and Natsu fights with like I think Atlas has been there the whole time. So when we use our like fairy tale limit break, Atlas always like comes in as well and like uses it. So I was able to get that off a few times. So Atlas comes in and fights, and then Rogue summons like the Diamond Dragon, and so they're fighting each other, and then the Diamond Dragon's dropping like eggs which blow up, and so we do that and we beat the shit out of him again, and then we get a cutscene after that where we hop on the dragon and we're chasing, and there's like Natsu's like running along the dragon and he's fighting Rogue with magic, and he goes to like give him a super punch in the face while he's on the Diamond Dragon, and then they end up like charging into Rogue and the Diamond Dragon, Gloomhaven or whatever, and they all barrel into the gate and completely destroy the Eclipse Gate. And then Rogue's like knocked out, Gloomhaven's like totally passed out from damage, and Atlas and Natsu are like the best ever, and they're like doing great. So at this point, all the gate's destroyed, and like, oh, it worked. So all the dragons start disappearing. So we get like a nice cute send-off from Atlas and Natsu, where he's like, Uncle Atlas, I'll miss you. And he's like, I'm going to tell you, when I go back, I'll tell your dad about how great you were in the future. And he's like, that's awesome, man. See you later. And then the queen, or the princess, is like, her name is, I can't remember what her name is, but it means jade, I guess. And then there's a jade dragon, and he's like looking at her, and he's like, who are you? And she's like, I'm so-and-so, the jade princess. And he's like, oh, I like that. And she's like, you're the jade dragon, just like my hair is the same color as your skin. And he's like, I will keep that name. So I guess this is where I got his name from. And then Rogue is laying there, and Natsu walks up to him, and he's like, what's up, homie? And the guy's, and he's like, hey, the reason I've always fought with like a shadow self that I have, and I lost to it because Frosh got killed, and Frosh is like the name of his cat, and tell past Rogue that Frosh is going to die 1 year from now, and that the person who kills it is, I'm dead. So he can't finish it. So that's ominous. So we got to warn that, and then we get some nice shots of everybody like kind of celebrating, but we also get some ominous stuff because the first guild master is like, we had all these dragon slayers and not a single dragon was killed. And I was like, dude, I fucked up that diamond dragon. What you talking about? But that's kind of ominous. And the idea is that like, well, you know, these dragons were nothing compared to Angologic, and we got to fight him next. Like, we're going to be fucked because you have all these dragon slayers and not a single dragon was slain. But whatever. So then the fair, you know, it's like the day later or whatever. They're all getting in like a little wagon to head back home. And they're all like kind of happy and doing well. We get Jarell and the other girl, like Melody or something like that. And an old lady walks up and hands them a letter because they don't know where Altair is. And the letter is from Altair, and she's like, hey, I had a great time with you guys. Keep up the spirit of like hunting criminals and taking care of that. Like, I used up all my magic doing the time magic thing, and so I'm probably dead already. And if not, I'll be dead soon. So don't worry about me. I got my redemption or something, and you guys should keep working on yours. The end. And then Jarell puts together the obvious thing, which is that old lady is clearly Altair. So he like looks up and is like, old lady, and she's gone. And then we switch to Gray, and Gray is in the caravan with everybody else, or in the wagon, and he looks out and he sees Altair walking away, and he like, you know, he knows that she sacrificed herself for him, and he's like, stop the wagon. and they don't stop the wagon. But then we see her like coming to terms with like her death and her peace, and then we see like a nice shot, like a nice drawn picture of like old lady Altair looking up into the sky and being contented for like the first time in like a long time with like the choices she's made in life. So that's a sweet send off. We then get back to the main town, what the Fairy Tale Guild is, and all the people are celebrating and they're having like a big parade, and everyone's super happy except Gray was like crying. Oh, and Gray he's like, Altair, oh, you sacrificed your life for like the time skip magic just like your mother. And I don't know, I don't know anything about that, so maybe it comes up again. It's probably a previous arc situation. I don't know, they had some sort of relationship clearly, but I have no idea what that is. So, and then the citizens, so he sat at the parade, and then Juvia like cheers him up, and she's super happy about that because he's so hot, kawaii. And then they, the town's like, hey, we're giving you your guild house back. Congratulations. And you go into the guild, and it is so fucking big. Like, it is massive. It's like a castle. And so then Natsu and Gray go and like jump in the pool, and then they're talking about singing on the stage. And they got like a nice bar, and everyone's so happy. And then the guildmaster's like, hey, you guys should go say hi to all the people who are visiting the town to congratulate you guys and talk to the citizens and take care of all that good stuff. Now that they're the best again. So we run around the guild, check everything out, say hi to people. We unlock a ton of story quests, and if story quests, again, are these quests where we hang out with certain characters and they either join our party or get more bond rating, and the bond rating increases stuff. It makes like the chain link, like the Fairy Tale Limit Break, last longer, cost less mana, stuff like that. Sometimes it unlocks costumes and whatnot. But essentially all our friends we met at the tournament, like Sting, like the perfume guy, like the white, all the people who joined us for battle essentially can now be recruited to be like full-time members. And we have to do about 3 quests. Yeah, it's 3 quests per person to get them to join. And then we have like the original crew, which still hasn't completed their like 3 quests to unlock all their bond ratings. So we got all that. So that I spend most of the time doing that. But before that goes on, after we kind of walk around the guild, get an eye on for everything that's going on, this tree mage saint. So there's the mage saints, which I don't know that much, and the game didn't really explain it that well. But they're like the greatest magicians ever or something, or all around or whatnot. And they go and do things. But anyway, there's this guy who's like a tree-looking dude. And he requests us to go check out this portal that, like, there's like a problem in this town. So we go check it out, and then Gray's able to like shut down the portal of ice, or to like block it off or something. And then Natsu like relights the fire of something, which gives heat to the whole town. And then we run into Tartarus, which Tartarus is part of the trifecta of evil guilds. One of the other ones was the Grimoire. No, not Grim. Who was it? It was the one that we faced in the tournament. And then there's another one from the anime that had to be dealt with as well. So this is like the last one Fairy Tail hasn't really taken care of. And then, and this is all told to us through the diary of Lucy. So it's like a whole arc that we kind of miss out on, or that we come in like halfway. So we just hear about that. We hear about how, I think there was a battle she was talking about. I was a little confused because the way it was phrased was, oh, we fought Tartarus and we beat like so-and-so, or like one of the guys' names or whatever. And then it's like, and then we had 2 down, but we, the rest wanted revenge. But at the same time, it was talking about the trifecta. And I know we like beat up the other 2 guilds. So I didn't know if it was talking about the members of like that, of Tartarus specifically, or like just overall. And then we get a quest to like improve the rank of the guild to 25. I'm already, or to, yeah, I think it's 25. I'm already at like 20 or something. So that was like an easy out. And then, oh, and then it's like, okay, so let's power up and then talk to me. Like the guild master's like, talk to me when you're ready to go forward. But like I said, at this point, I'm just getting through all the story quests. I'm getting all the rank. I'm getting like the rank A rank up thing. I'm exploring all the areas, and I can do up to like 100,000 damage with the limit break at one time. So I'm going to open up all those areas that need to be opened up before we continue on with the main story. After spending all this time leveling up, getting my guild rank up, getting my ranks up, I'm like hitting level 60 at this point. I'm like super over leveled. And we unlock this thing. It's like a link attack, and if you hold the LB button, then you can charge like your monster thing up, and you can do it anywhere. So it's like a whistle from like Dragon Quest 1. So you can charge up to like 50 times like the power of the monsters in the area. And then I'm so overpowered, I beat the shit out of them. But then instead of giving me like 1,000 experience points, it gives me like 30,000 experience points. But I beat it almost just as fast. Especially what I usually do, just to make sure there's no problems, is that I will wait till the limit break hits, and then I will charge it up all the way and just massacre everybody in one hit and just get like everyone gains like 1 or 2 levels. And so I went from level like high 40s to most people are in high 50s, and then Lucy, my favorite, is level 60. So it's about time we continue on with our journey. So remembering all the way back hours in my game time, but like a few minutes in this recall, the master is going to separate Mira and Urza to go investigate and protect one of the council members, while the rest of the team, which is Natsu, Lucy, Wendy, and 2 other people you can tag along. So I always tag along Shira or Sheely. I don't. So Shira's like the cute girl who's like Wendy's BFF, who's from the Lamia Tier Guild, and in this game they've spelled her name at least 2 different ways. Like Shelly is one of them, and then Shira, and then they say it differently. And I think it's just like bad localization. Bad translation. Like they need to get like an AI on this translation because it would have done a much better job. And that it's a typical thing with Japanese stuff. If you're not super familiar, is the R's and the L's are like interchangeable because it's all like an accent. So depending on the part, and I don't know exactly, but how it is. But if you're in the South Japan or in the north part of Japan, you will have like an or like an ol sound. And so when people are translating it, sometimes they're just listening to it and they'll just base it on what it kind of sounds like, but some people were like autocorrect because I think it's always supposed to be because it's like there's no character, like the character is like ru re ru ro kind of situation. Anyway, so that was interesting because at some point I was like, wait, that's another name. Like the fuck. And then I usually use Juvia or the Katana lady. The Katana lady I like because she is like a stronger version of Urza. They have the same resistance to like physical attacks, but I feel like her other attacks do a bit more damage, so I'm sticking with her. And that's very subjective. Like I haven't sat down to the math on it, but I was like that. And then I like having Wendy and her homie, and Lucy, of course, and then Natsu I usually run with if it's my option. Or at some point I was like mixing people up so I could level up everybody up evenly, but at this point I've upgraded the guild so much that if you're not in the party, you're still getting like 80% of like the experience points. So I'm like, man, they'll be fine. Like if I have to do a situation like this where I have to use Urza by herself, essentially with a guest character, it's still no problem. I'm just devastating enemies because I'm so far over leveled. So now I'm just gonna run with like my hot girl party, and then occasionally Natsu, and then whoever I have to run it with. Okay, so we go off to protect this guy with like Natsu, Lucy, and Wendy. And then we get attacked by Jackal, who's part of Tartarus. And his little thing is like whatever touches him, he can turn into a bomb. So he does like a super attack, and then it's just him and Natsu. And Natsu keeps hitting him, and so Natsu's becoming like a bomb. But then Natsu like eats the bomb, and then and then Wendy and Lucy hop up, and then they beat the shit out of him. And then he turns himself into a bomb. So Happy has to so he's gonna blow up the whole city that they're in. And so Happy has to like fly him away so that he doesn't blow up the city, and then he blows up, and Happy gets a little blown up, but not really. He just gets blown up enough so that his hair turns into an afro. But then Natsu's like, think. Oh, we gotta go help Urza. And so Happy grabs Natsu, and they take off, leaving Lucy and Wendy alone, unfortunately. Now switching over to Urza and Mira, they meet up with the old council chief, who's very nice and gives them obviously poison tea because super obviously he's working for Tartarus. And so they head out to beat up some goons who show up to like hurt this guy, and then they pass out. And then we get I can't remember her name. It's one of the members of Tartarus who does like torture and stuff, and she kind of looks like a bird, sort of. So they get captured and taken to like a prison. And Mira and Urza get separated because Urza wakes up and she's chained against the wall, and she's like, "Where's Mira? Where's Mira?" And they're gonna like try to transform Mira into like a quote unquote demon because that's how this group operates. They have like a dude who resurrects or transforms people into demons, yeah, that's super sketch. So Jekyll like blew himself up, but we see him like pop back out of one of these like tubes in the inner thing when we're seeing the bad guys interact, and then we see Minerva, who Urza beat the shit out of, and she's been kind of like transformed into a more monstrous form of herself. And then they have Mira in one of these things as well. So that's unfortunate. The other thing we get is Lisa or Lamsia and her brother. I can't the beast guys. They're out guarding somebody, and then they get not betrayed, but the person they're trying to guard is already dead. And then they run into this lady. Her whole thing is that she can like puppet people, and so she tries to puppet the dead guy to like do something to hurt them, but that doesn't work out. And so she puppets Big Brother to attack the sister, and then kind of captures them. And then okay, so we don't play through that because those are not playable characters. We just get like a video of that. Meanwhile, Natsu finds the area where Urza and Mira were ambushed, and then he gets the smell of them, and he follows them to Tartarus's base. Happy like carries him the whole way because Happy can fly and carry him clearly. So they get there, and then we invade the base a little bit. We run around, fight some guys, and then we go to fight this guy who's like Sub-Zero, who has some sort of relationship with Gray, because when Natsu mentions Gray, the guy like freaks out and freezes Natsu, and then Natsu gets put in prison with the sister. It's not Lisa, but it's man, I can't remember. But with the sister character, because it's Mira, her, and then the other, and then the brother, and she's like a Beastmaster, and he's like a Beastmaster. I think they're both Beastmasters, but Mira's not. She's like a different kind of magic. Anyway, so Natsu and her are chained up together, and Natsu's talking about they're going to break out and do all this stuff, and how he's not worried about it, and how they're going to beat Tartarus, and he's always optimistic. And then, so Happy, he was able to escape after Natsu was frozen, so he flies all the way back to he flies back to Wendy and Lucy, tells them what's going on. They all head back to Fairy Tale to kind of make a plan to assault Tartarus. And Happy, for some reason, does not remember how he got to Tartarus or where it's at, but he has like a vague notion of the direction he was flying in, and it's like on an island over there. And so Levy, who's Lucy's best friend in the guild, who's the blue-haired chick with the small boobs, she uses her like whatever cartography magic or just like research to kind of figure out where the island is. Meanwhile, Big Brother shows back up and kind of sneaks into the storeroom where he sets up a bomb because he's still under the mental control of the Tartarus lady. And Kana, who's the bartender lady, who's the daughter of the guy who's like the strongest guy in the guild, who's supposed to be the master who wandered off, she catches him and she turns him into a card and the bomb into a card because her magic is like tarot something or card magic, protecting the guild. And then so it's like, all right, cool, time to invade Tartarus. So now that we're going into Tartarus's base, we got some peak anime. So we all head out. We have to start with the party with Wendy and Lucy, which is it's fine because again I don't know why Gray's not more involved in this like arc, like at all thus far. It's kind of weird. But Lucy and Wendy take a team of ladies, my main team. And we go ahead and head in. And when we first get to Tartarus and we land, we got to bust face. We got to fight a bunch of like weak-ass enemies. And at first I was like, in a lot of places, if you like use your super limit attack, not limit attack, like your limit break for how many monsters you're fighting, like times 50 or whatever, it'll clear out most enemies in like a level, and then you can just go. So there's a bunch of enemies at the front, and I'm like, I'm just going to clear them out. So I did that, gained a few more levels. We're sitting at like 63, 64 at this point. And then it's like, no, you have to go individually and kick the shit out of each one of these groups of enemies, and there's like 6, which is not a big deal, but it's just like dragged out. And it dragged out because I have to go into the battle, it has to do like the pre-battle thing, I have to do the battle, I have to do the post-battle thing, and then I have to go back out, and then I have to go track down the next one. And it takes like a minute to get through that process. Which doesn't seem like a big deal, but I literally kick the shit out of the enemy so hard, the first person who attacks kills everyone in the group. So it's like, why do I have to fight each one of these battles? They should just automatically die. Bad Gust. Make it better. So we beat all them up, and it's like, all right, time to go in and do stuff. Hoo yeah. So, but then we switch over to... Okay, I'm going to lose track. There was like so much shit. There was so much bouncing back and forth. So then we go to Natsu and... Oh no, then we go to the enemy, and so the guild master is like, aha, we don't have to get Jalel anymore, because before Jalel was one of the council members who had like the key to open Face, which is going to drain all the mana out of the whole continent and kill all the mages, but the Tartarus isn't affected because they use curse magic, which in this world is different. And they're demons or whatever. So we have the... We have the, not the head, we have like the guild master guy who betrayed Mira and Urza. He's talking to like some Cyclops monster that we never actually get to see or fight. But we see like his little face. And he's like, oh, I figured out a way. He's like, aha. And we have the final key. And he's like, oh, did you kill Jalel? And he's like, no, but I was able to find a way to transfer the key to me from Jalel, so we don't have to track down Jalel and kill him. I have it, and then I can transfer to someone else, and we can just kill them. And the Cyclops is like, oh, that's so cool, you're so powerful. And then the bird lady shows up and kills the guild leader, or not the guild leader, the council chief or whatever, the ex-council chief. And he's like, "Brr!" And then it's like the whole ground shakes and everything shakes because now like face is opened and you can like utilize it. And so, and then the bird lady is like, all right, activate it. And then the Cyclops is like, we can't activate it remotely. Only the person who could do that was the person you just killed. And she's like, I may have acted too rashly. But the Cyclops is like, oh, but you know, we can go over there and we can activate it like in person. And like, all right, let's do that. Then we get Natsu and Lisa, and they're in prison. But then like a sword like pops over to them, so they pick it up and they break themselves out and break themselves free. And then they go out, and then the bird lady's there now, and she's like, how'd you escape? Something. And then Urza shows up, and then she beats the shit out of her while Natsu and the other girl go elsewhere to find stuff. And so Urza beats the bird lady up. Oh no, Urza's about to fight the bird lady, but then the bird lady's like, here's Minerva, we transformed her into a monster. And Minerva's like, I'm Nirvana. Minerva. God damn. And so Urza beats the shit out of her so hard that they bust through the floor. They bust through the ceiling out into like the battlefield where Tartarus is fighting all the fairy tale. And then Urza's like, I got this. You two go and stop Face. And so Wendy and Lucy go fight Face. Meanwhile, Natsu... Oh, meanwhile... Okay. Yes. Wait, okay. I should have written this down. The order... So next is Natsu's wandering... Natsu goes to rescue Mira. That's what it is. So Natsu and Lisa go to rescue Mira, but then they run into another bad guy, and Natsu's like, I got this. You go find Mira. And so Lisa goes to find her while Natsu fights somebody. I don't know if we actually do that battle, though. He might just be like, I'm going to fight him. And then it's like, this might be where he fights the Cyclops. Yeah, I think it is. I think he fights the Cyclops here. Or something. Anyway, so he's fighting. So then Lisa goes, and then we have Mira. She's in the chamber where... Is that what's next? Yeah. Well, it happens eventually. So then we take control of Mira. Mira's in the tubes, and guys are being resurrected, and the lady who can like control people, she's like chit-chatting about how she's excited to make her, or no, the scientist demon is talking about how she's excited to make her ugly and all this stuff. And then like some of the other monsters are like the Cyclops and whoever else who's got killed recently, like the bird lady, are like, oh, we can resurrect now. And then Mira like busts out, and then the one who controls people tries to control her, and then Mira's got a power called Take Over, so she's trying to control her, and so she can't, so we just use Mira to like beat the shit out of her a couple times. And then she ends up taking control of the ability that the other lady has to control things, so that she can take control over her brother, release him, and so then he shows up to help fight the mind control lady. And then we finally kill her for good, destroy the whole lab, and everything's like super great there. Meanwhile, Lucy and Wendy get to the control area. They realize the same thing, where they have to go in person to shut this thing down, and it's already been activated. And then, who did they fight? I don't know if they fight anybody we would recognize. Maybe this is where the Cyclops... No. The Cyclops dies before this, I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to remember who they fought. They start fighting somebody, or at least he's like, I'm going to stay here and fight. Well, so Wendy can go, but then Natsu also shows up. So Natsu and Lucy fight somebody, but we don't participate in that battle. That's like, okay, that's happening over there. So then we follow Wendy. Wendy and Carla, her cat dragon lady, fly her to like where the Face is, which is somewhere else in this like complex. And when they get there, they run into this like Goro type character with a bunch of like monster legs and then like 4 arms. And we battle, and then it's another situation where I kick the shit out of him, and then it's like, oh no, Wendy's being beat up real bad, and she's struggling so hard. And then she's like, I know what I can do. I can eat the wind, just like Natsu eats fire. And so she does, and so she powers up, and then she like powers up again. And we fight this guy like 3 times, I want to say, or Wendy does, before finally like completely destroying him. You know what? That battle actually takes place before Mira's battle, because he goes to the chamber and he gets like killed good for dead. when Mira destroys all the tanks and kills all the like the replicants or whatever. Okay, so I got that out of order. I apologize. Anyway, but then they need to shut Face off. But then to shut Face off, they have to like give up all their magic and die or something. And so her and Carla are going back and forth about who's going to do it. And Carla and Wendy's pretty beat up because she used like her Dragon Force, and it was the first time she used it, and she got beat up pretty bad by this guy before she was able to use it. But now she's like a true dragon slaying wizard or whatever. But then they decide they're going to both activate the self-destruct sequence together, and then if they die, they'll meet again in the future, and everything will be great. And so they do that, and then Face shuts off, and then we go to the bird lady, who is talking to the king of the underworld guy. Oh, at some point, Natsu's like standing around, and then Zareth like walks up from like the very beginning of the game, and he's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And Natsu's like, "Hey, what's up?" And then this Zareth clone or Zareth spirit, the spirit is there. I think it's supposed to be a spirit. Is like, I created like this guild is like really obsessed with like bring me back, but if I make it too easy, it's not fun. And they're all like my books. He keeps referring to them as like I wrote them into existence, and they exist just to like bring me back. But I don't know if they can do it. You guys are probably gonna beat the shit out of them. And Natsu's like, "Yeah, we will." And he's like, "All right, that's cool. Whatever, man. I'll catch you later." That's right. And then Natsu's like, "Yeah, bye." That happened like way earlier. Anyway, so the self-destruct thing doesn't go off. The king is like talking. She like everyone's getting beat up on their end. All Tartarus is losing. And so then he's like, "I'm going to activate Agrios." And so he activates Agrios, and it like creates like goo that entraps everybody. And we get a fun little cutscene, sort of, where like we see Natsu gooed up, and we see Amira and her sister and brother gooed up, and that all that happens. Everyone gets gooed up, except Lucy. And even he mentions like, one person. There's a 1 in a billionth chance that Agrias would not work and imprison everybody in like their goo, but there's one person who didn't, and it's like, it's Lucy. And this part is so badass because Lucy's the best. And so she's like, "I got this," and then she gets approached by Jackal. And if you remember Jackal, this is like resurrected Jackal. When you touch him, you blow up. So we kill him one time, and then Lucy kind of gets like a little blow up. And so she summons Aquarius, because Aquarius uses like water magic to fight, and she's holding him off. But this whole thing's getting like real out of hand real fast, and to like save all her friends, she has to summon the King of Spirits. But the only way to summon the King of Spirits is to destroy one of your keys. And then Aquarius is like, "You have to destroy my key so that you can summon the King of Spirits, so that he can save all your friends, and everything can be the way it's supposed to be." And then it's a cinematic. This is all like in cinematics at this point, like with Lucy and Aquarius. And it's super sad because Aquarius is like the first key she got. It's like her oldest friend. Like she was the only friend she had when she had no friends. And they have like a older sister, younger sister kind of vibe, and they're really close. And she's like, "I love you. I don't want to give up." And then but then she breaks the key to summon the King of Spirits, and Aquarius is like, "I miss you too," or whatever. And then the King of Spirits shows up, and he just like destroys the base, like crashes into it, blows the whole thing to smithereens, and everyone like collapses down to the ground. And then we see him talking to like the King of the Underworld, and they clearly know each other, and they're like, "All right, time to fight, motherfuckers." And so they're doing their thing, and then Jackal's like, "The fuck did you do?" And Lucy's all tapped out, right, because she got beat up by being blown up by Jackal, and she's sad. And this part's in cinematic as well. And then he's gonna like use his bomb magic or whatever, but then the King of Spirits is like, "I'm gonna give you the power of Aquarius, Lucy." So he does. So now she transforms into like a super sexy uniform. God, Lucy's the best. And then she has the power. She gets like a new ability, like Aquarius's power. And then we beat the shit out of Jackal again, and this time it's for good. There's some more like back and forth after the battle, but then Lucy comes out triumphant, and then she transforms back and like passes out. Meanwhile, the King of Spirits releases everybody and kind of makes a more mess before he has to like bounce back to like the spirit realm, and kind of really gives it to like the King of the Underworld, so they can't do whatever. We see Urza and Natsu come and find Lucy and like help her get back up, so they can retreat and regroup back at the base. And we see all the people who are like gooed up, which is really just like Mira and her siblings. I don't know why Gray's not here. It's very confusing. Mira and her siblings, and then Natsu and Urza, and then they all leave, and then Minerva like says something threatening as Urza's leaving, like, "I'll find you, and we'll have our final battle." Ha ha ha. Ho, 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 ho. So then we go back to the Fairy Tale Guild, kind of like somewhat victorious, and we got to go back and like take care of this thing once and for all. But we need to like regroup and level up. And this gives us an opportunity to finish off this. And this takes us to like chapter 8, which is like the final chapter, which is not really the final chapter because then there's the epilogue chapter and then there's like post game chapter. But it's called the final chapter, which is good because it means we can upgrade some more of our guild and get some more bonus stuff. And that we can finish off some of these like friendship quests, and like we can recruit Jalil to be in our party, and then we can get like the maximum power out of like Lucy and Natsu and stuff by when it comes to the limit break stuff, which is good. So yeah, some crazy. It was so good. Fucking, I love it. I love it. This is the best way to do this, in my opinion. Get through this stuff because when I was watching the anime, I was like into it, but again, with shonen anime, I got to do it like in piecemeal because after so much time of just being like, oh no, we lost. Oh, we're winning now. Oh, we got to do it again. Oh, da-da. It's like, all right, I got it. You're gonna struggle. You're gonna overcome. It's cool. It's epic. But you try to like power through some of that stuff. Any of that stuff. One Piece. It's like, okay, you got to take this in spurts, man. Like, it gets kind of repetitive. But like playing it in a game, it's awesome because you're just like beat shit up, and then you're kind of pushing the story a lot faster than it would in like watching it. Ultimately, the manga is the way to go with all this stuff. Like when I was reading the like Dragon Ball and what's the other one I read all the way through was I haven't read Dragon Ball all the way through because like I kept making stuff after I stopped reading. But like the original Dragon Ball Z. Seven Deadly Sins. It's the manga's the way to go, hands down. But the game I like the game better than the anime. It does skip over some stuff, to be fair. Very blatantly skips over some stuff. But it's much more enjoyable to interact than just kind of be passively like observing these battles going on. Although the anime I really enjoyed Fairy Tail for the first like, God, I don't even know, 70 episodes that I watched. Lord. Okay. But yeah, so now we're going to spend some time just finishing up all these like extra side quests that we can do, and then off to the end of the game for the part 1 end of the game. All right, time to take Tartarus out. So we again split everybody into 3 parties, re-emphasizing the fact that it's very smart to make sure you level everybody up because otherwise you end up with somebody who's just weak as hell. And this is another situation where the anime is clearly following the set path of like the main cast, but you have all these other side characters that you can like slap down on these groups, some of which matter, some of which don't. So the 3 groups we have Gray, just Gray. Then we have Urza and Mira, and they can bring, and then Gray can bring 3 people. So we slap them just like the perfume guy and Jalel and somebody else. And then we give Urza and Mira 1 person. I don't remember who I gave them. And then the last party is Juvia, Gajel, Natsu, and Lucy, and you can't add anyone to that party. So then everyone heads out, and then we have like we got to clear out all the enemies in front of like the ruined Tartarus area first. And we control Natsu's group for a few battles there, and then we take control of Urza's group. And we bump into Minerva, or Neo Minerva, as she calls herself, because she wants revenge on Urza for beating her that one time, like many moons ago. And we beat the shit out of Minerva, and then Mad Greer shows up. He's the guy with the book who is the boss of Tartarus Guild, or the guild master or whatever. And he's about to cast some spell to kill Minerva for good because weakness and shit. But then Sting and Rogue show up and they protect her. And then he announces that it's not just the one face, they have hundreds of faces, and that they can control them remotely. And Urza's like, you can't control them remotely, only the prior chair, and you killed him. And then Madger is like, au contraire, we have a necromancer, and he brought him back to life, sort of, in like a necromantic form. So now we can use that to start them all. And in fact, we just did! So, so we switch back to Natsu's group. Natsu's group just kills more goons, clears some space, and then we go to Gray. So Gray's the most important one. So then he fights that silver guy who deep froze Natsu back in the day. And they go back and forth. So we beat the shit out of him, and then we get like our buddies show up to help that we added to the party, and then we all fight together, and then Silver like freezes them all, and then we have like a nice chit chat. So at first, it's so fucking confusing. So first Silver's like, this is the body of your father, dun dun dun. And Gray's like, oh, something something. And then he's like, yes, but I am a monster, and I am part of the Tartarus Guild, and I took over your father So I'm not actually your father. I'm like possessing your father. And then Gray's like laughs and he's like, that's a lie. You are my dad. There's nothing possessing you. And then Silver's like, you caught me. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what? Why though? And then he talks about how he got killed protecting his family, but then he got resurrected by the necromancer, and then now he's evil and something something. And Gray's like, I don't believe you're evil. And he's like, all right, you caught me again. Because Jesus. What Silver's been doing is he's been working undercover in Tartarus as our necromantic pawn, but he's actually freed himself, and he's been spent all this time developing devil-killing ice magic, which he's used to like undermine Tartarus this whole time and do whatever. But still, for Gray, and so he's been working on. He's been a good guy the whole time. Yeah, boy. And then we switch over to Juvia. Oh, then we kind of get like a little thing where it's like, oh, and all this other shit's going on. And Juvia's ends up fighting like the necromancer all by herself for some reason, and she's gonna beat the shit out of him. But then he's like, "Oh, if you kill me, you'll kill Gray's father too." And she's like, "What?" And then she gets like a message from Gray's father telepathically, and he's like, "You must do it. You must release me from my bonds." But she's like, "No, but I love Gray, and you just got back together with him." And they have like a little back and forth, and then like Gray also speaks to her in like telepathy or something. Or no, I don't think Gray does. I think it's just the dad. And then finally Juvia's like, I gotta do it. I'm gonna do it. And so she does do it and kills the necromancer with her super ice magic. And that releases all the people who, the necromancer had like resurrected, including the dad. But right before Silver dies, he's like, come son, I will show you the devil killing ice magic that I created so that you can become the greatest devil killer of all. And Gray's like, got it, Dad. And it's like, this is really like a shining moment for Gray, who's been kind of like not around this whole game. I mean, he's been around, but not really doing much. So he gets like super devil killing magic, which is important because then we get so after that, then we go to Lucy dictating from her journal again, and she talks about how Juvia killed the necromancer and was kind of like knocked out a bit from all the exertion of using that super powerful magic. And then there's then Gajil and Natsu get into a competition to see who can kill Tartarus the most. And Gajil wins. Him and Levy go underwater and fight and kill some guy. And then Temptuous, who's another member of the Tartarus Guild, shows up. And everyone's like super tired and weak from all their fighting, like Juvia fighting the necromancer or whatnot. Natsu and everybody killing their guys. And so he's about to like kill everybody, essentially. But then guess who shows up? Dun dun dun! It's Gray with double killing magic. And again, we don't play any of this. This is this is the recall through Lucy's journal to speed time and get rid of non-important stuff. So he uses his devil slaying magic and saves everyone and kills them. So now we go back to Urza and Mira, who have now been joined by Minerva after Sting and Rogue fought like Mad Greer off behind the scenes. And so they're all at the control center, and there is also the Bird Lady. And so the Bird Lady is in communication with Mad Greer, and he's like, you have to stop them. The only way to stop them is to merge with the control center so that you can make sure the faces go off and destroy all the magic so that we can resurrect the end, and we must sacrifice everything. Because she's like, well, I'll die if I do that. And he's like, just do it. You know what you signed up for. We got to resurrect Zareth by resurrecting the end and all this stuff. And she's like, okay. So then you fight her, and then she merges with the thing, and then she becomes like, and you fight her again, but then she uses like this magic power that increases like, or lowers the pain threshold or something. Makes everything more painful. So even like a gust of wind would be extremely painful. And she uses it on Urza, Mira, and Minerva and Mira are kind of knocked out. And then Urza is still trying to like fight back, and so she uses like another kind of magic which makes her like blind, deaf, dumb. It's like it takes away all her senses, and then Urza still stands up, even though she can't see, she can't hear, she can't smell, any of that stuff. And then you play this like really rad battle where you have to use like your Urza's like super Saiyan sixth sense to figure out, because the battles are all in like a 3x3 square, so the monsters can be anywhere in like one of like 9 spaces. So you have to use this ability so that you can sense where she might be, and you get like, it shows you where they're at, but then like they take a turn, and then you you follow, so then you know that they're on one of like 3 squares. So then at that point, it behooves you to use an ability that's going to hit all 3 of those squares so you can hit her. And because I'm super overpowered, she went down in like 2 or 3 shots. Once I figured that out, it took me a minute to be like, what the fuck? Because I kept like using the power and then attacking like that spot directly, but then I was like, this is not working. And I was like, okay, maybe it's those like purple flames, like I'm retarded. So it was. And I'm retarded. So that made it possible for me to utterly decimate her in a few hits. And so once we kill her, because she's connected to everything, it should have turned off Face, but for some reason it doesn't. So Face is still going to go off. But before it can do that, we go back to Natsu, and Natsu is standing around with everybody, and then Ignil, his daddy, who he's been looking for like the entire time, fairy tales like existed from like the first episode or first manga, that this guy's like, I'm looking for my dad, Ignil. He Ignil like pops out of his chest, and he's like, aha, you're cured. I have done my job. And like, what the fuck? You've been in there all along? And he's like, yes, I had to hide inside you, so because you're a dragon slayer, so that you don't become a dragon, I had to like fight the antibodies inside your system to prevent you from becoming a dragon, so you could stay human but still have all your dragon powers. And then he's like, and then Angalogic shows up, the man dragon king thingy, and he's like, I gotta go fight that guy, so I'll see you later. And then Natsu like jumps on him while Ignil's trying to fly off, and he's like, what are you doing? I told you this. And he's like, no, you have to answer my questions now, you motherfucker. And Ignil's like, no, I don't want to do that. So how about this? You're in a guild, right? So I'm charging you as a guild request to go get that book, and don't let him open it, and don't let anyone destroy it. The book is the end. That Mad Greer's carrying around. And Natsu's like, but what do I get paid? And then Ignil's like, all right, when you get the book, I'll answer all your questions. And then Natsu's like, all right, now I'm burning up, or whatever he said. I'm fired up, that's what it is. I'm fired up. So he goes, and he's like, gonna fight Mad Greer, and then Rogue and Sting show up, and I'm like, hey, wait, those guys, man. And they're like, we're going to help you. And Natsu's like, no, it's my guild request. I don't need your help. And they're like, all right, we're not going to help you. We're going to compete against you so you can beat him first. And then Noctis, because he's insane, he's like, all right, now I'm fired up. And so then they start fighting. At some point, Zeref like meanders over. No, I think he meanders a little bit later. I'm trying to remember. At some point, Zeref, like the spirit of Zeref, keeps coming over to like chit-chat with Natsu. He like meanders over, but I think it's after this part. Yeah, okay, it is after this part. I took notes this time because it was so fucking complicated. Like all this shit that's going on. All right, so then we fight, and then we're beating him up, and then the guy pulls out this like fucking sweet ass throne to sit on, and then Wendy shows up, and she's like, I'm back and I'm good. And then Gray shows up. Oh, and then he does something, and then Gray shows up and uses like Dever killing magic to like even the odds again. And then we beat the shit out of him again, and then Mad Greer turns into like his true demon form or devil form, and then the 5 of us kick the shit out of him one more time. Meanwhile, the dragons of like Wendy and Sting, all the other like dragons that were inside everybody, like Gajil and whatnot, they all pop out and they're fighting Angalogic. And then, okay, so we beat that guy and kill him, and he's like, it's still too late, all the magic's gonna be drained away, ha 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 ha. And then the magic starts getting drained away, and everyone's like, And then there's like a giant explosion, and we see Ignil fly by, and he's like, don't worry, the dragons are destroying all the faces, so they can never do this again, and that it no longer exists as a thing. And so the dragons do, and they save everybody. But then Ignil gets knocked down by Angalogic after all this fun stuff happens. And he's like, and then Angalogic hits him with like a final blast, so he's going to die. And Natsu's like running around, there's like, no, Dad, no! And then, let's see. What? Yeah, and then he's just like, oh, goodbye. And he's like, oh, the other reason we hid inside you is so that we could, and when Angelo came back, we could all fight him, and like now it's your job to like take care of him, and make sure and don't forget the book, because I got the book, because Gray has it, and he's like, I'm going to destroy it. And Natsu's like, no, don't destroy it. That's part of my request. And I don't think, at some point they kind of just, I think Zeref just like takes it back. He's like, give me that. That's fine. That's when he comes. Yeah, he does. He comes, and he's like, hey, what's up, y'all? And they're like, hey, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, just watching you guys kill Tartarus, who's trying to save me. That's fun times. You guys did a good job. High fives all around. And it's like, fuck. And then all the other dragons like leave or die because they all say goodbye. I love you too, Dad and Mom, and all that stuff. Yeah, and then Zeref like takes the book, and he's like, cool, it's good seeing you, Natsu, we'll see each other again, don't worry, best friends forever, right? And Natsu's like, I barely know who you are, man. It's like, I'm Zeref, that guy the evil wizard everyone keeps trying to like do whatever too. And he like, okay, bye, I guess, and he just wanders off. So then we get a lot of contemplation. We get like Gray and Juvia like hanging out, and Gray like forgives Juvia and says, it doesn't even forgive her. He says she did the right thing and gives her a hug, and she's so happy. Urza is like feels like there's a hole in her life, and she's kind of sad. But then like she senses Jalel watching her, and she's like, he makes some passing comment, or like I don't know. It was hard to tell like what was thoughts and what wasn't. But anyway, so he goes off to continue doing whatever he's doing now that what's her name is dead. Uvela or whatever. And then Urza's like, I'm gonna keep being strong, keep working hard, and keep doing my part, while Jalel, my boyfriend, does things in the background. Awesome. And then we get Natsu and Happy are inside Lucy's house, and they're writing a note. And then Lucy gets home, and the note says, hey, we're gonna go train for a year, we'll see you later, bye. And then Lucy runs out and it's like, no, you guys, I can't believe you just left me here, you're a bunch of assholes. And then we see the master of the guild standing around and like looking at Natsu leaving, and he's like, maybe it's about time we wrapped up Fairy Tale, which he does. He closes it down. So then we get some more journal stuff from Lucy. Lucy ends up, after Fairy Tale shuts down and everyone kind of goes on their separate ways, Lucy ends up moving to Crocus and starts working as a journalist for the magic newspaper, the big magic newspaper, for like a year. While everyone scatters, and she has like this thing in her room where she's keeping track of where everyone's at, making sure she stays in touch with as many people as possible, because the guild means like everything to her, and it's her family, and power, friendship is magic and all that stuff. So that's super sweet and kind of sad. Anyway, so a year goes by, and then there's another tournament of mages, and Fairy Tail's obviously not participating because they don't exist anymore. And then right near the end of it, a mage shows up, Natsu, and goes crazy and like blows everyone up, and he's like, yeah, fight time, and it's like good stuff. And then Lucy's like super mad at him and Happy for piecing out, but then they come stay with her, and she tries to fill him in on like Fairy Tale and everything that's going on. In the middle of the night, Natsu and Happy decide they're going to play a trick on Lucy, but when they go in, they see her like sad like serial killer board with all the strings attached to different locations and everything, and they're like, we got to get Fairy Tale back. Lucy's having a real hard time. And so when they wake up the next morning, the Natsu is like put fires saying Fairy Tale on like the capital of the whole kingdom, and so they have to like escape out the window and run away. And so the first place they go after that to start the guild back up is to find Wendy, and she is in Margarita, which is the home of the Lamia Tier Guild, which she joined after because her best friendsies, Serapha, are there. And so they show up, and there's like a Thanksgiving Day parade, and her and Wendy and Saphria are like dancing and singing in front of this thing, and Wendy's like super embarrassed afterwards. But then they approach and say, what up, Wendy, we want you back. And she's like, no, I'm with these guys now, I'm not going to leave my friend, and yada yada. And then monsters attack, and so they have to go fight the monsters. But then Wendy and Seraph go and fight the monsters, and then they come back, and Wendy decides she's going to go with Fairy Tale, but because her and Seraph have like a talk about how like they're like best friends forever, and she doesn't want to leave her, and she doesn't want to leave her alone. And Seraph's like, I got plenty of friends. Plus, we're not going to be friends just because you like go back to Fairy Tale. We'll still be close and hang out. And Wendy's like, thank you so much. And everyone keeps commenting on how Wendy looks taller, like she's growing up because she's like a teenager or whatever. So that's interesting. All right, so then Wendy's back. Then we get journal time with Lucy, and there's this whole thing where there's this evil guild avatar, like the next evil guild, and Gray went and joined them, but then of course Gray joined them to infiltrate them and like sabotage their stuff and to fight them, just like his dad did with Tartarus essentially. And so he does, and then Urza's like his communication on the outside, and so they're working together with like the council, and we find out the new council is all the mage saints have pulled together, and then they also incorporated some of like the guild masters or leaders, the stronger mages, to kind of like help out with that. And right before, was it right? I think it's right after. So then we go, I guess Avatar, a lot of them sacrifice themselves to summon this giant like demon or something. So then we go, the five of us, Gray, Urza, Wendy, Lucy, and Natsu, like the main crew. And we beat the shit out of this thing, kill it. And then Gajel and Levy show up, and they work for the council. It seemed like Gajel is a member of the council. And everyone's like, how the fuck? That can't be real. And he's like, no, it's for real. Stop being an asshole. And Levy's like, no, it's totally for real. He's a member of the council. And so we get like props for destroying that thing and helping crash Avatar down. So that's good. So next up, we get the Fairy Tale Guild back, and we're gonna like reinstitute it, like Natsu and Lucy and Urza. And well, mostly it's driven by Natsu Lucy. But then Lucy sends letters to everybody that she was keeping track of where they were, and to be like, hey, Fairy Tale's coming back. Everyone's invited back. And Kana shows up, and of course Ursa, Gray, Juvia, they're all there. So then we get like our main crew back as we continue through the not final chapter / epilogue. Oh man. Okay, it's time to get Gajil and Levy back in the guild. So before we can do that, though, we got to go help them finish their final task with the guild. So with the council, and it's some all bullshit. We gotta investigate some shit. We go to this mountaintop. No. This is the one where we. Oh, that's right. So we go to like this swampy area. So we unlock a whole bunch of more areas right here. So we unlock the swampy part to get to like this other area to like deliver whatever, and then Gajil and Levy are like, hooray, now we're gonna join Fairy Tale again, yay. Next step is we're like, oh man, we gotta go get what about Laxus? Oh, Laxus joined the guild with the perfume guy. Why would he do that? I don't know. So we go check that out, and Laxus is like, oh no, what's up guys? And you're like, hey man, why are you marching in a parade or looking fancy? Why not? And he's like, shut the fuck up. So then we have to help the guild master, the perfume guy, and when we do that, he'll let Laxus like be relieved from like his contract or something. And this whole section is really ridiculous. It deals a lot with this character, which is like he's kind of weird and funny, sort of, almost in like a there's that game where you like roll stuff around. Kodanami, Todam. Anyway, I can't remember, but there's a game where you're like a prince of like this crazy king-looking thing, and you have like a tiny ball, and then as you roll it, it collects things, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it's like the whole size of the planet, and you just collect everything. And that's what this guy kind of reminds me of, that kind of humor. This kind of like very bizarre, like very Japanese style humor. Anyway, his whole thing is that people are looking down on him and his guild and he doesn't know why. And then you track him down and you find someone who's like shape changing to look like him and just like for some reason being an asshole. So you beat up that guy, and then Laxus joins the guild. And the last one is we need Mira and her siblings, the monster twins. And so we got to go track them down. Where are they? Who knows? So we search around, and we find that they're in like this village at the top of like a different mountain that we unlock as a place to go. So we go to that mountain, get to the top, and Mira and the family, then her sister and brother are like, oh yeah, we'd love to come back to Fairy Tale, but we've been working in this restaurant here, and we don't want to just abandon these people because we've been here for like a year and they've been so good to us. And then Mira's like, well, if we could go get like this super special ingredient, then I think we'd give them a delicacy that they could use to keep people coming here and keep like maintaining the ability of the town to like function well. And we're all like, yeah, let's do it. So we go and we find this item, and then we come back, and then we go around, and there's like this whole silly thing where it's like, oh, that's not the item. Oh, how about these mushrooms? This isn't the right thing. This isn't the super special ingredient. And eventually we find it, and we bring it back, and then now we've got everybody in the guild. All right, not everybody though. We were missing Makarov, the guild master. So what do we do about him? So at this point, I do some like character quests and some other side stuff, like build up my guild. I max out all the buildings and stuff. And then it's like, all right, so we're going to go to Lucy's house, where we're going to meet up with Jalil. And when we say meet up, we mean like the core crew. So Ursa, Gray, I forgot his name all of a sudden. Gray, Wendy, Natsu, and Lucy meet up with Jalil. And there's this whole talk about how like, all right, so we've destroyed like the big three, like the Bazil Alliance or whatever, the big three dark guilds, and now there's all these like tiny guilds like trying to fill in this space, because like nature will find a way or whatever. And that's like what Avatar was, which we already took care of. But then there's some other like kind of shady stuff going on, and we need to just make sure that Makarov, maybe he's hiding because he doesn't want to get involved with that, or there's some like shady stuff with him, or someone's out to get him or whatever. So we got to go and track him down. Makarov is pretty easy to find. He's just chilling out at Tohu Island. We talked to Jalil or somebody, and they explained to us that there's a guild, like a dark guild of some sort, that like went over there and is like harassing stuff, and that's obviously where Makarov is going to be like hiding out at. So we go over there. we sort of half rescue him. He turns into like his giant magic form and beats the shit out of like the head goon. And then he's like, "Oh, I can't come back. I've disgraced Fairy Tail. You know, I broke up the guild, but I broke up the guild." And there's some like really bizarre logic. It's something with like the balance of light and dark, and how with Fairy Tail being so powerful and them defeating all like the dark guilds, like and then the council being gone or something, there was like an imbalance, and they had to like get rid of Fairy Tail for like imbalance's sake or something. some old bullshit. Anyway, but then first Master comes and she's like, "Hey, quit being so selfish, Makarov. Come back to the guild. That's what they want. You're now the 6th Master. You got to do what you got to do." And he's like, "Oh, you're right. I feel so bad. I've been so selfish." And so he comes back, and then that wraps up. Does that wrap up the epilogue? Oh no, the last quest that we got to do is, now that everyone's back and Fairy Tail is good to go, now we can go all the way back to the beginning of the game when Hades interrupted our fun, and now people can start taking their S-class tests again. And that's the next thing. But before I do that, it's time to get all my friends. So I start doing all the quests for Laxus and Mira to join the party and to get all the bond levels up. So everyone's kind of maxed out, and just finished upgrading the guild completely, and then, you know, do the S-rank quests. So that's what I start doing. Finally, we're ready to do some S-Class quests, but I find out that everyone has to be S-Class. So we go and talk to Makarov, the Guildmaster, and he says, "All right, here's the deal. I'm going to let anyone who wants to be an S-Class adventurer with Fairy Tail, do it. Whether that's people in this guild or out of this guild. And also the other change I'm making is that you can do with it as many people as you want." And everyone's like, "Hooray!" And I'm like, "Hooray?" That's good news, actually. I really didn't want to go through this S-Class training with every single character individually. So we take in I have like 3 groups, I think is what I need to do. And I make a mistake at some point. I might have been able to do it in 2. Only because like Urtha and Laxus and Mira are already S-Class adventurers in Fairy Tail. So I took them through, and I didn't need to do that. And I didn't realize that until I took like a harder look at what was going on. But we get everybody up to S-Class, and then we report back to Makarov, and he's like, "Congratulations, you did it. Now you can go do whatever you want, and you can do S-Class quests, and even there's a thing called the 10-year quest." And 10-year quest? What's a 10-year quest? 10-year quest is a quest that was put in 10 years ago that no one's been able to solve. So, and then there's also 100-year quests. And so at this point, the game ends. You can keep playing. There's post-game stuff. But now officially, we are done with the game. The epilogue ends, and everything's doing great. And then everything past this point is just like little side quests and extra stuff for individual characters. So I'm going to do that. I super enjoy this game. It's been a blast to play, and I'm shocked by how much I enjoyed it. I mean, Fairy Tail is great. Shonen anime is great. Hold up. My little drink is overspilling my thermos or whatever. Okay, so yeah, Fairy Tail. I don't know why I was skeptical about. I was like, I don't know, like an anime role-playing game based on Fairy Tail. And no, excellent across the board. I have 0 complaints. A few things about the post game, and then we're gonna wrap up. I'm gonna keep playing it for a little bit before I move on to the Shining series, which will be the next thing we do. And I'm not gonna do the entire Shining series. It's like 14 fucking games, and they're all like strategy role playing, action role playing. None of those games are like a quick knockout and move on. And aside from Imaginary Earth, I really have not been combining games. The reason for that is just when I initially decided to do more of this long form kind of stuff, I started with Imaginary Earth, and I evolved a lot of my opinions on how I was going to record these videos and do stuff at that time. So that's a very unique video. Well, if you follow me at all, you see that more often than not, I play through a game, even if it's a series of games, and I don't combine all the videos, making these like 18 hours or whatever. So we're going to do that, and I'm going to do it in the chronological order, because I played most of the earlier games. I haven't played a lot of the ones that take place in like the PlayStation systems forward, but I played all the Genesis Saturn games, which are like Shining in the Dark. Well, not all of them, because some of them I found translated copies of like Japanese only, but we're getting way too out of ourselves. So that's the next series, the Shining series. We'll start with Shining Force 1. I think that's chronologically the first one, if I remember correctly. I marked it all before I head in there. So Fairy Tail, I Oh, so the post-game stuff, so there's a whole bunch of 10-year quests, then 100-year quests that I'm going to do. I finish up finally all the characters. There's one more character for me to get. It's the original guy who was supposed to take over Master, who's the father of Kana. I haven't got around to that yet. And then the game has like I want to call it like a Dice Gaea situation, where I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but it's like a tactics strategy role-playing game, that like a Final Fantasy Tactics style game, where you can essentially like go into everything in the game, like items, weapons, whatever, and like level them up to like level 999. They can get really ridiculous. You can get pretty overpowered. So this has a somewhat similar system, it appears, where after you get to level 99, you can get like you gather these like other things, these like crystals or whatever, and when you get 2,000 of those, you can restart your level back to 1. But you get like a huge bonus in like stats and hit points and everything, and you keep everything else, and then you can start leveling up again. So you do this a couple times, and you're going to be like ridiculously like powerful, and you got to do that a couple times for these like 100-year quests. I'm assuming. I don't know if I'll get around to it that much. I don't want to belabor the point with this thing, because I've essentially seen all there is to see. I'm running through the S-class quests. I'm going to do some of these 10-year quests, and I want to get this other guy if I can. Excuse me. But yeah, it's definitely it's like amping up the difficulty, and really the only way to do that, to get more powerful at this point, because I almost have like the best Lacrima, which is the things you can equip, on all my main crew, which is Wendy, Saphira, Mira, Katana Lady, or Katana Lady / Juvia, depending on how I feel, and then Lucy, of course, who's the best. So yeah, so that kind of wraps up Fairy Tail. Again, excellent. Enjoyed it thoroughly across the board. It was just like a pleasure to play. The story's great. Even the stuff where like it just gave you like the journal entries, like I never felt slowed down. All the side stuff you can do is fun and like just adds to the game. There's like all these little stories that like I didn't necessarily always engage in, because sometimes I was just trying to level characters up that I didn't really care that much about. But it was just fun. It was exciting. The auto battle is like mwah, because oftentimes you're just fighting scrubs, and I don't want to sit here and like click around all the time. And then when I want to, you have all these abilities, and the way they have the battles set up with like the grid system and like different abilities doing different grids was great. And if you like role-playing games and you just want like a chill time to like enjoy like a fun shonen story, this is like a 10 out of 10. Now, when it comes to just like playing games generally, will I ever come back to this? Probably not. But not because it's bad, just because, again, I've seen all there is to see. I enjoyed it, but there's nothing about this series that like really spoke to me to where I need to play the game again. Now, what it didn't, I'm gonna get this manga, because I forgot how much I enjoyed Fairy Tail. This is my second time engaging with the series. I watched a lot of the anime like 15 years ago or something when I was an undergrad, and it was excellent then. And I stopped watching it. I think I mentioned this before in one of the, earlier on in this video, that like I just kind of got like I overdid watching it, like just back to back to back to back to back, and kind of burnt out a little bit. But also, it came to a point where it was like not translated or subtitled, or at least that I could find at the time. Nowadays, you can find whatever, and even then, there was you could find a lot. But but in this juncture, it's like I really just want, this is a series, and the way to enjoy shonen the best, like if you truly enjoy something that's like a shonen anime or shonen style, manga, in my experience, is the best. That is the way to deal with it, because it's like a superhero comic. It's very dramatic. It's very power level up. It's very like volume to volume. You get a lot of bang for your buck, and it's just like enjoyable across the board. And I just got to say that my goal is to collect, I think there's like 64 volumes over the next couple of years, depending on how I feel. But it's just very good. The story's fun. The game's fun. There's lots of mechanics, lots of little things to do. And it's been like a pure chill delight to play through this game. And so it's very highly recommended. Now, if you don't like Japanese role-playing games for whatever insane reason, or you don't like anime, this is not the game for you. But if you like either of those things, or both those things, especially if you like both those things, this is a great time. Great time had by all. So yeah, thanks for indulging however long this is going to end up being when I finally slash it all together and add the video clips behind. But go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you all later.